assumed it was him.
Doc?
Dr. Disrespect. Hey, did you see that Dr. Disrespect has started a new game studio?
No.
No, we'll figure this out. Oh, I think I got it back. I think I got YouTube back. I got YouTube's back. Revengeful has light them up, by the way. They're the same. They're the same person. I don't remember what the company's called, though. If I just type in Dr. Disrespect game or something, I'll probably find it. Project Moon. Midnight Society. There we go. Which is a cool name for a company. Ours is Omnix Games. That's stupid. Oops. Midnight Society. We'll check this out. Midnight Society. We're going to Chrome. Your mission begins now. Night has fallen in the city. It's time to choose your path and claim your place in the existence. See? That sounds pretty cool. I think it's supposed to be like a battle royale that takes place in sort of like a burning building type situation, like a skyscraper. And then there'll be floors, and then the fire pushes you up to different floors so you're together. So instead of having a big open area, I think the idea, the concept that's different here is it's not going to be a big open place. It's sort of smaller or something, like inside rather, you know? But again, I think it's all just concept at this point. I doubt they have anything even to show off, because they would show it off if they did, I feel like, wouldn't they? But I don't know. Because usually they like to be like, oh, and check this out. Here's the working prototype. It's so close. And the crowd goes wild because they see it and they're like, oh my God, it's almost ready. And you're like, no, it's not. It's not even close. This is basically a lie. But you show it anyway, and everyone gets hyped, you know? They believe the lie. And then 2 years later, they get pissed because the graphics don't match in Rainbow Six Siege from what was shown in the trailers, you know, and the concepts and stuff. You're like, well, you know. Really, Mitch? Is he in the what reserve? Is he in the? Okay, this is a very specific question on Mitch. Now, is your friend in the Army Reserves or is he in the National Guard? My guess is Army Reserves, because they're probably not deploying anybody. They are perhaps getting ready. I don't know if the National Guard gets deployed against countries like Russia. I guess, I don't know. The National Guard gets deployed to like Afghanistan. I know that because I was in the Army now, and I went to Afghanistan. There were some guys there. But I'm just curious, like, because the National Guard is intended for, like, state protection, sort of, right? Somehow, but it's still in the Army. I don't really get it, because I was never in. I don't really get sort of what the structure is. Like, does the National Guard fight Russia? Like, do they help fight Russia? I don't know.
Aren't they just, like, guarding the nation? Like in the name?
Well, so is the Army, you know? Like,
well, the Army can be used, like, offensively, but
well, yeah. Well, so my point. That's why I'm confused, because the National Guard goes to Afghanistan. You know, that's not defensive.
Yeah.
But then I thought maybe it's because the Afghanistan sort of war. I guess it's not really like a traditional war. You know, it's not. They're not fighting enemies with tanks. We just basically need bodies there, or at least that was the strategy, right? But the National Guard in the United States, in America, they're just like they have the same training as like the regular Army. There's no different. They have the same ranks. They have the same jobs. Everything is the exact same, except perhaps they're funded by their state slightly. And then like their unit that they go to is in their state and run by their state. And also the governor, like the president of a state, the governor of a state, can deploy their National Guard for crisis, like for crises. Like, so if there's like a dam breaks or something, you'll hear them on the news. The governor's deployed the National Guard to do something. And you would never have that with the Army. I've never heard that with the Army Reserves. I mean, maybe it happens, just doesn't get said. Because the Army Reserves is more like a federal sort of situation. Therefore, having a backup team, you know, or having like a deeper roster in case you need them, just in case you need them. You know, if there's a war or something. All right, your mission begins now. Blah 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 blah. A different kind of game studio. For decades, game developers have toiled in an environment closed off from its audience, then shipped their labors of love on a hope and a prayer. Players and developers deserve better. I don't disagree with him. Blah, 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 blah. with a shooter ARG. This is Dr. Disrespect's game studio, Midnight Society, and I think he officially sort of announced it like last week. I believe I've just heard Dr. Disrespect. I watch the doc occasionally, and I think this is supposed to be some sort of shooter battle royale type situation, but it's going to take place like in a building, in a skyscraper, instead of an open world, and the building's on fire or something, and then as the fire, consumes the building, it forces people to certain floors or something like that. I could be way wrong. Maybe it's changed completely, but when he talked about it at some point, he talked about something like this, and this was like over a year ago, I would say, that he talked about this. So I think it's been something that's been in the works for a long time. And at this level, I mean, he probably must need so much money. And then also, why do I know the name Sumit Gupta? Why do I know that name? Who's Sumit Gupta? Is that someone that's like famous? Or is Gupta just a common last name? Like,
Yeah, I think.
where it's like, oh, okay, that's why I know that because of Gupta. I'll say the thing I really liked was the that vampire battle royale. I really thought that was a fun world. It just wasn't popular, so people didn't play it. But I really thought that was a fun world to play in. And if you look at careers, because I was like, I was just curious. I'm like, what are their careers if they're hired? That'd be cool. But it's all like, there's some things like I could maybe be a gameplay engineer or something, but I don't have any. I'm not gonna do it. That's just for curiosity, for fun. Like, what are the requirements? But see, they're using Unreal Engine, so I feel like it doesn't make you very strong. Yeah, it is a big team. That's the thing, and as it probably should be, because it takes a lot of people to make an actual game. And he's not trying to make I don't think he's trying to make an indie game. I think he's trying to make like a legitimate, a game that can, stand toe to toe with the big boys, Then again, there's not that many positions either that he's hiring for in the grand scheme of things. It's only, I don't know how many positions he already has filled. I saw like you saw our team. He had a lot of people, but sometimes the our team isn't, it's just sort of, you just add more people even though they're not really there, Dr. Specs as co-founder, 6'8" visionary. It's pretty funny. But I'm looking for developers that they have. They have things like creative directors. I would suspect that they're not doing any implementation, right? They have like environment artists, which might be. Although probably at this point it's a lot of concept, I'm guessing. Would be my guess. But again, I don't know. Marketing, they have one gameplay engineer, which is Ryan Thompson. In his picture, he looks cool. I bet he doesn't look like cool in real life. But his picture looks pretty cool. So not super big, but not nothing. And then under their careers, they've got, what's this? A speculative application. What the F does that even mean? Just like they're like, well, maybe we need this position. So we'll see if we can get anyone that fills it or something. 3, 4... 1 is 6. Right, but open world, it wasn't trying to be like a battle royale. Open world was trying to be like some sort of something. Also, New World killed my graphics card, let the record show. But New World was trying to be something else. It was trying to be not just a battle royale. It wasn't trying to be battle royale. It's just an open world thing. Whereas this is a shooter, which is, I think the shooter genre is like super dead or stale right now. Not dead, but stale. I feel like everyone's looking for a new shooter to come out that's fun. Because right now people are playing like Warzone, and they're maybe playing Overwatch, they're maybe playing Valorant, they're maybe playing... What shooters are people playing these days? Even like Rainbow Six maybe? Probably even Counter-Strike. What's that other game? What's the other popular battle royale game? Like Apex Legends, Maybe Fortnite. But my point is they're playing games that are all pretty old. I think the newest game I mentioned was Apex. Maybe Valorant was the newest game technically. I think Valorant is pretty new, like a year or two. And in terms of like Warzone's so old. It came out with like 3 years ago now or something, which is pretty old. It's a pretty long time. And then all the COD games, multiplayer, are pretty much the same. So it's like the same game. So I think people are looking. I think there's potential, but just because there's potential. The other thing though, sometimes the zeitgeist moves on. Sometimes people move on. Sometimes people just don't like shooters anymore. Like, I don't think people enjoy playing traditional MMOs anymore. And then every time a company comes along and tries to make like a WoW killer, I'm like, WoW is already dying. Like I feel like the world has moved on, just like TV has moved on. Yeah, Apex is doing pretty good. Yeah, I think that the world has moved on. It's like if you're like a network executive at what's like a big network like Fox or something. You have shows, you know, and you still believe that you can have like a big hit show on a network television. It's like it's not how it works anymore. You need to do like streaming and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that I mean I don't think WoW will ever actually die, but I mean but WoW is not at its peak what it used to be. Like WoW is not what it used to be at all. It might have more people just because more people play games now, so they technically have more, and so it's like looks bigger. But in terms of like the cultural impact and zeitgeist and stuff, I think that people are looking for other types of games and have been for a long time. I mean, if you look at like Twitch, like you look at like popular. I mean, popular streams don't matter necessarily because some games are fun to watch but not fun to play, and vice versa. Especially like battle royales, I feel like are much more fun to watch than to play, and so then it makes people think that they're more popular than they are. But you know, yeah. Again, I don't think WoW will ever actually die all the way where they'll shut down development because it's still very profitable, you know. But what I mean is just in terms of being a big dog. People are like, is this going to be the next WoW? And I'm like, nothing will ever be the next WoW. It can't be, you know. Just like I think nothing could ever be the next Minecraft, you know. Like Minecraft came at a time and there weren't many like indie games. It was fun and it was sort of simple, but it was fun. And so I don't think that it could ever happen again. So anyway, so I think that a lot of times these companies try to make these things to try to capture something that was in the zeitgeist 5 years ago. It's like you kind of missed your chance. You really can't do it. People don't care anymore. At this big scale, I mean, you could have a small studio that like does stuff and doesn't like there's enough. You know, there's still enough interest. Like you could make what's like an old game, like an old popular, like Command and Conquer or something. Like you could I guarantee you could make like a Command and Conquer remake and still make a decent amount of money, even though it's not like in the zeitgeist anymore. Like it would never be a game where like everyone's playing your game because it's like no one plays RTSs anymore. But enough people still like RTSs that you could make money.
Oh, did you try the new Age of Empires?
No, I've never played Age of Empires.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool.
Plus, I don't care about RTSs anymore either. Just like everybody else, I don't really give a shit. Sometimes I like RTSs more as I get older, actually, than I did when I was younger. But when I was younger, they feel more real, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like there's more fun, sort of. I don't know. There's that thing you're trying to sort of mix up. It's hard to mix up. Okay. Unity. I think VR died as well. If it was ever here. VR was just hype, though. It was kind of like Bitcoin or something, or Dogecoin, maybe. It was just hype. And yeah?
VR is getting bigger and bigger, though.
Do you remember the hype, though? When VR first came out, there was a lot of hype, and that hype is largely gone.
Yeah.
That's what Mitch is talking about. And now it's like the bubble has burst, and now it's
like the real sort of.
Well, yeah, I think it's like it's real now. But before, you could make like a crappy VR game and probably make a lot of money because so many people were just trying it. So many.
Well, there weren't a lot of actual consumers back then, but now with the Quest, it's way more profitable to actually make a VR game than it was ever.
Maybe. I think that in the early days, there was so much hype. People were playing everything, though, that they're probably not playing now. Like, I feel like everyone was getting a VR headset at the same time. Everyone was playing. Then there weren't that many games either. That's the thing, too.
But there were so few people who actually had headsets. Now there's, like, kids everywhere have, like...
But there's also way more games.
Yeah.
Like, way more. Like, the games were never that good to begin with. They were propped up by a bubble. Because there weren't that many games. And so, like, one game could very easily, reasonably get, 5% of the audience to play their game or something, or 10%, like a lot, because there weren't that many games. So you Google like, what are the good games? Like, oh, it's just this one. It's like there's these 5 that are good, and everyone's like, okay, I'll play those 5. Cool. And then more and more games come out, and then eventually there's a bunch of games, and then there's just too many games that fill out whatever you're looking for. Like the market couldn't support like the number of games and stuff because it's so niche, Like I don't play any VR game. I never play VR, almost very rarely. Also, when you first buy a VR headset, you're buying like all the games. You're buying so many games, like 10 or something. But now I'm not doing that. Now I'm like, okay, what's a game I actually want to play? I don't know. I just think these things contribute. There was definitely a hype at the time, and you try games. Basically you play a lot of concept art, a lot of concept like tech demos almost, but they were calling themselves games. And I remember, what was that game?
It wasn't really like viable even to make VR games.
Was it not? I don't know. Maybe it was. You say it wasn't, but what does it mean to not be viable?
I mean, the market was so small.
Right, but like, what does it mean to be viable? Like because all you saw were a lot of indie games, but like, so I think it was viable from that. I don't think it was viable from a AAA standpoint ever.
Well, the thing is, back then I read about a bunch of indie developers, and they were like jumped on the bandwagon, and they were like, "But wait, this isn't even profitable. There's not enough people to even, buy this. We could have just made like a regular game."
Well, my argument there would be,
first of all,
who wrote the first of all, who wrote the article and how research was it? Because these are written by these are written by people who just ask questions. If you ask any indie developer, is there money in something? They'd be like, no, there's not money in this. They could be. Like, if you ask them if there's money in cell phones, they'd be like, no, there's really not money in mobile games. And there really is not much money in mobile games. But it's not. But it wouldn't be fair to say there's no money in mobile games just because you don't know how to get it. Because it's really, as an indie developer, making a mobile game is usually like, don't do that because there's too many. You can't compete.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, my point is that it doesn't mean that there's no money in it or there's not enough people in it or something.
Yeah, but in VR, it was more like there weren't enough people who owned VR headsets.
I honestly think it was more just that everyone gave up on VR. They didn't care. Because like if you released a game for VR like 3 months after the Vive came out, nobody was like the player base. The VR player base had dropped off like like 90% or something had dropped, and they were just gone. And then you were just left with the stragglers. But so again, but Mitch is trying to talk about, I think, is how in the early days there was so much hype because everyone thought that it was like, oh my god, this is like the future, And then people were like, these games are all kind of the same. They're all kind of boring. There's really not that much to it. Once the novelty wears off, everyone leaves, and then you're left with struggling to make an interesting game in such a limiting medium. By the way, I feel like a Pokemon Snap type game you could make in VR and it'd be really fun. And what you do is you set it in like some sort of scary haunted house type situation, some sort of spooky sort of thing, and like you're a paranormal investigator or something, and you're on rails because it's in VR, right? So you're in rails, and you somehow have to like take pictures of the spooky things, and just like Pokemon Snap, you take pictures of the right things, so apples at the right things that can activate different modes and unlock the next levels. So something like that could be fun, but I think that you really have to look at the constraint and be like, how can we make a fun game given this constraint? Because instead, a lot of times when you make a game, you're like, well, I want to make a cool game in which you're a helicopter pilot and you got a 50 cal gun and you're just blasting on fools. You're like, that's cool, but does it fit the medium of VR where you can't move? And it kind of does, actually. That one does, because you're just sitting in a helicopter blasting on fools.
Like a Pokemon VR where you throw like the Pokeball and you give like voice commands.
I don't know if that'd be fun or if that'd just be a novelty. Because I'm saying like Pokemon Snap type game could be fun because that's a mechanic that's been sort of proven enough. I mean, I don't know if you say proven enough, but
yeah, but like, Pokemon like battle.
Pokemon Snap, I mean to say. I don't mean Pokemon Go. I specifically mean Pokemon. I'm talking about in VR.
Yeah.
Like, because it's a single player game. If you're talking about like Pokemon Stadium in VR, and I still feel like it has to be single player because not enough people's friends have the headsets to make multiplayer any fun. So I feel like it's got to be single player.
Well,
I do. How many?
Playing against your friends, I mean, how insane would that be?
What percentage of people have VR headsets, and what percentage of their friends also have VR headsets, and then what percentage of those actually want to play the same game together? I'm just saying, like, I feel like the multiplayer is like, that's cool, and all, but it has to be such a casual thing. I'm just saying, there's no way. Like, if you what's a popular multiplayer VR game, Victor?
Like Onward.
Is it even popular? I mean, is it popular for VR? Is it popular? Is it a type of game that is Onward popular? I guess I don't know what popular is, to be honest with you. It's a shooter though, and also you don't need to play with friends.
There was the Battle Royale VR game.
What was that?
It was from like a biggish.
Also, you said that there was. I'm sensitive. You said there was. I was like, oh, it's not here anymore. Okay, so I was like, what? There was.
It's called Population 1 or something.
So these things come out, and then people all try them. They're like, I'll try it, and then like, it was not what I thought it would be. It's fine. It's not what I thought it would be, and then they just don't try it again. But I just think that unless it's a simple multiplayer, specifically with VR headsets, who can play with their friends? Almost nobody. I think like you're my only friend with a VR headset. Maybe Mitch has one, maybe, but it's like, so if there was a Sea of Thieves type game, I'm not playing it. Which is because what I mean is a game where like, yeah, you can play by yourself, but you're really not gonna have fun, and you really need to have friends play it to have fun with. For multiplayer. But then if it's something like Overwatch is more fun with your friends, but you don't need your friends to play Overwatch, Like you can have fun playing against randoms, like it's fine. But then you also need a minimum player base.
Yeah, but like a Pokemon like Stadium kind of game, you could play against anyone pretty much.
I don't know, because here's the thing. I think what you're doing there is just making a novelty out of it, because
Yeah, but
I
Pokemon
think
Stadium was always that kind of like sort of separate
the
thing.
medium's
You
going to be
have the
different,
main Pokemon
right?
game, and then you bring
But
like
how does it
Pokemon
benefit
into
from being?
battle,
But
like
right, but how
Stadium.
does it benefit from being in VR? Just that you can look at your Pokemon in 3D.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. It's kind of like a gimmick. Like, what do you play it? You're like, oh, it's as fun as Pokemon Stadium, but it's not made for the medium of VR. Whereas I feel like
Well,
something like
you have
Pokemon
like
Snap
twisters.
is, because you look around. Those are just cool. What you're describing is just cool things to look at. Like you're saying, like look. You're making examples of things that would be interesting to look at in VR. But I'm saying in terms of a game, like a game is more than just interesting things to look at, because
Well, and Pokemon
eventually,
battles are
yeah,
just sort of static sort of battles,
yeah.
and having that presentation where you're actually standing next to your Pokemon.
But aren't you
Like,
playing
will
because the
be
battle,
like
like,
you're a
right?
player
What are you
or
doing
a trainer.
mechanically in VR that you couldn't do, with a mouse and keyboard or controller in this Pokemon Stadium VR? Like,
Just
that's my
throwing the
question.
Pokeball.
That's the thing. And so if you miss, what, do you just not get to win the fight? You throw again until you hit it? It's sort of like, okay. And then, or there'll be like there's like one thing that's VR about it. You throw the ball. God, I had to put my headset on just for this.
Like a belt or something with the.
That's what I'm getting at, though, is that
you
like
pick,
it's
like,
not
a
really a
brick ball and
VR
you're like,
game. It's more just a thing that would be cool. It's like it'd be cool to watch a movie in VR. Like it'd be cool to just one time as an experience go to an amusement park and have a Pokemon Stadium battle with your friend. Like that would be cool. But I mean, in terms of a game that you're coming back to and you're playing, you're telling your friends to buy, you're getting good reviews. It's like, well, you're just describing like a cool experience, and the cool experience is there's a giant Charizard.
Pokemon Stadium.
I thought Pokemon Stadium was objectively fun. Had the mini games I would play, and also the medium of playing on the Game Boy is not that much different than the medium of playing on an N64. It was like a natural thing. It was just like a beefier Game Boy, But VR is a different thing completely.
Yeah.
In terms of looking around, everything is it's so different. And like I remember you could play. I think I would spend a lot of my Pokemon Stadium games just playing my Pokemon game, because there was like the adapter you'd buy. Do you remember? And like you'd be able to play your Pokemon game on the N64. I would do that. They also had like I think you could walk faster or something. That little emulation system. I do a lot of mini games in Pokemon Stadium with my family too, like with my brother and sister. I think that's some kind of Elite Four. Yeah, it was good for parties as well. Yeah, I think Pokemon Stadium was great. It's kind of like Mario Kart. It's great for parties and that sort of thing. But it's not really like a hardcore sort of serious game for adults. It's kind of for like children. And, maybe just like Mario Party or something. So I'm just saying, to make it VR, it's like, wow, it's cool. Like, it's cool. You can like, oh, wow, you can see Charizard. He's breathing fire. And I can almost feel the flames, bro.
Yeah.
But mostly you would just be sitting there while your dudes fight, and you being in VR isn't contributing to it. Like if you had a gun or like a shooter, like you're part of it. Like you need to aim at someone, like an onward. You have to aim at someone, shoot at someone, and the controller is just sort of like an Xbox 360 controller. It's just doing its best to help you aim the controller, but it's not realistic. But a controller does its best. Then you go in VR, you're like, oh my god, this is very realistic now. This is crazy. Like this is like a lot of my real life skills involved. But then with something like Pokemon Stadium, you're throwing the Pokeballs, and then the Pokemon are just doing their AI-controlled things, and you're selecting their moves, probably from a menu still. You could even put it in VR if you want to just be annoying, and then make them, like, sort of put the controller, like, there's, like, 4 buttons in the top left, top right, bottom left, so 4, and then you just click on one of the moves. And that way they're so far apart, and you can make them big, and you can easily click them. There's no misclicks, right? So you put one of those moves, and then you're like, oh, you hold the controller like it's a remote, the way you do in VR, select things, and a little beam comes out, and you select it, and then you can see it.
The voice control.
I hate voice control so much. They never work. They're all, and then plus voice controls are a gimmick. I believe that, because they're not realistic. They only work if you're like live on your own.
Mimic, like the Pokemon.
No one wants to be a Pokemon. Listen, Victor, there's not enough adults who can buy the $600 VR headset. I know they're cheaper now. Who genuinely want to be like, go Pokemon, go. Now, okay. I'm not saying you couldn't make a fun Pokemon VR game. I'm saying specifically Pokemon Stadium as a VR game, I don't think would be fun. So I'm not trying to say that it's impossible to make it fun, but the medium is so limiting in that you can't move at all, really, to have a fun game. Like Skyrim VR, is that actually fun, or is it just that Skyrim's fun and the VR isn't boring enough to make it not fun?
Well, you sort of get used to like
right.
wonky way.
Well, that's what I'm asking though. Like, is it just that Skyrim is so fun that the way you move, the wonkiness of VR, like can't defeat it? Like it's like and you're still having fun.
Tried it, but if you're actually aiming like with a bow and actually using your sword and shield and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe there's parts. I've never played. One of my friends had. I never played it. But what I'm asking is like, is it actually fun, or is it just that Skyrim's such a good game that you put a good game into VR, you just have more, sort of more stuff. Like you could, like people would play Halo in VR. Like Halo. If you like, if they made Halo 1 and somehow gave it VR controls somehow, like you move, you know what I mean? People would of course play because it's Halo. It's so fun, it's Halo. But as like the novelty of it is sort of why you're doing it. I mean, like there's no like, what big VR game has come out ever? HalfLife Alyx, if that even counts. Yeah. And the way I ask if it counts is because like it's made by Steam, who has so much guarantee of marketing, like where they can be like, oh, we'll make money off this. It doesn't even like we can market this. It doesn't matter. Like people will play it. I think that's one of the only AAA games, isn't it? Because they have like you have the early day vibes where they would have like those games that it came with like Job Simulator, which wasn't even. It's a fine game, right? I'm not trying to shit on Job Simulator. What I'm saying is Job Simulator was cost $60 or something like that, or $40. And it wasn't really that fun. It was just kind of like a gimmick. It was just sort of like this fun, like, hey, I want to check out my VR headset, guys. And like, yeah, okay, here, check out this Job Simulator game. But it wasn't like fun in the sense that like you'd play it on your own. And then all the other games on VR would be like $5, and they'd be made by like some random indie developer, and you play those games because they're $5, right? Like back, I'm sure they're still there. Back in the day, like half the games were VR games were just like shooting ranges. And I think there were shooting ranges.
Shooting guns is so amazing in VR, though.
Yeah, there were shooting ranges, and I think there were shooting ranges because it's very easy to asset flip a shooting range game. Like it's very easy. Even to make the assets yourself you're not really making a game. You're making like one. So in a normal game, a typical game, like if you're making a normal shooter, you'd have to spend a lot of time creating the sandbox, getting able to pick up guns and shoot guns, make sure the guns feel good, all that stuff. And that's just like 10% of the game or something, And then with the rest of the game, you have to like make levels and make enemies and AI and a campaign and dialogue and story and what you mean, lots of crazy stuff. You have platforms. How do those things get implemented? I have to find keys to unlock doors. And then in VR, the shooting range is just that 10% of just being able to shoot the gun. And you really have to balance it because you don't need accuracy, you don't need auto aim, or any of that shit. You don't need it, at least. You could just make it go exactly where it doesn't have to be a very realistic gun. You can make it realistic, but they weren't. They're not. They're not very. They're using like basic physics stuff to shoot guns. So you can flip them real quick, and so you'd have like there's some shooting gallery, maybe like one guy, and it's decently enough. Again, what's popular, right?
Yeah. We should really try like Pavlov VR.
What's that?
It's like a shooting game.
In what way? Like, what do you mean it's a shooting game?
Well, it's sort of like Onward is like a military sim, right, but not as simulation-ish.
Yeah.
It's a bit more polished, I think. But it's just really fun to interact with, the guns and just how realistic it is. And I think it would be fun just to hang out like with your friends at like a gun range, just picking up guns, like shooting a target.
Yeah. Can I also tell you why voice commands are stupid?
Yeah.
In my opinion. Let's say that. What's an example voice command like in Pokemon Go or something? Maybe it's not stupid in Pokemon. I keep saying Pokemon Go. So in Pokemon Stadium, it might be like attack.
You use Thunderbolt. Or
yeah. First of all, there's no way that like you're gonna want to literally say the word every time. Like Pikachu use Thunderbolt. Pikachu use Shock. Like first of all, that sounds crazy. But just say it's like Pikachu use Attack 1. Let's say, right? That probably would end up being right because it would work out, right? But let's just say it was Pikachu use Thunderbolt. Let's just say it was okay. The time it takes me to say Pikachu use Thunderbolt and hope that like it actually picks it up correctly in one try. Right, so Pikachu use Thunderbolt. Or I could just press left, up, and A, and I would do that in like half a like up, like I just click it, and the amount of effort is low. I'm just moving my thumb slightly. I can get it done. It's precise. It's doing exactly what I want it to do.
When it's like a turn-based game, like how much it actually matters, how quickly you can actually.
Well, even then, like the precision, it's like I'm using energy and just annoying when I don't want to. I have to like talk. I have to talk clear enough. I've never used good voice stuff. Maybe it exists now, but I've never used voice chat where I can just kind of talk without sort of being like I have to be like Pikachu. use voice attack, you know? Like even when talking to like my Google, I have to be like, okay, Google, turn on lights. But in real life, I never say, hey, Victor, turn on lights. I'll be like, hey, can you turn on the basement lights? But I can't say that to, like if I'm like, okay, Google, turn off the basement lights. Sometimes it'll work, but almost never. It's always like, hold up, slow down. Slow your roll, guy.
I remember like
I hate that shit.
way back in like 2011, maybe.
Additionally,
like,
I don't think it would ever be
playing,
cool.
Like,
yeah.
Silent Hunter submarine simulator. And that was amazing with voice commands.
Can I tell you another reason that voice commands are stupid? If you were using like a real gun or a real thing in real life, you would never talk to it and say, reload gun. You just do it. You want to figure out how do I do this with my hands? Yeah, how do I do this with my hands?
Yeah, but
it's a tool.
A game where you order someone else.
But I have the tool. But I have the controller.
Submarine.
But I have the controller. It's the tool and I use it with my hands to press the button to manipulate the thing. It just doesn't seem to me that people want to talk. People don't like talking, especially people who play video games.
Yeah, but
like,
when
I don't want
like
to talk to a
guy
guy
or something.
Yeah.
You're like flood torpedo tube 1.
I don't think so. I think that what you're
and then like
I think that what you're getting on is like one
torpedo tube 1 is flooded.
Again, I think that you're latching on to like one cool moment that could happen in the medium and being let's make a game around this one cool moment, which is, you know,
yeah, well, it's really
like charge the shield or something. Like what was like Captain Picard said, I'd be like redirect power to the shields, and you're like, whoa, look what I just said. I feel like Captain Picard.
Yeah.
But then I'm saying after you play it for 30 minutes, you're like, I
Captain,
don't.
Shields can't take anymore.
Yeah, and then he's like, I know, Victor, I can see the screen too. You know, like you're like, shut up. But that again, that isn't control. It's just communicating with your team. Let's say, okay, all right. Yeah. How many times in your head do you picture like, oh, I'm gonna play Rainbow Six with my friends or some tactical shooter, and we're gonna just use all like code words. We're gonna be like, okay, Tango, Roger, Roger. We're gonna have great communication. That doesn't happen, does it? It never happens because no one wants to.
It's way better when you do that.
But no one wants because. But here's the thing: you can say it's way better, but it's a pain in the ass. That's why no one does it because it's not way better. It's only better if everyone is in the mood to do it, and you never are because it's like it's just too much of a pain in the ass.
I mean, sometimes when I play DC, it's actually helpful.
When you play what? When you play what?
Daisy.
Oh, Daisy. Okay.
Like directions and stuff. But that's like a different sort of. It's not just something you sit down and like.
What do you mean?
Relax and
you like talk to your friends? You mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
when
right.
To like communicate where someone is, or.
Here's an example. Like when Victor plays Sea of Thieves, he doesn't say left and right. He says port and starboard. Why does he do that? I don't know. It's literally a worse way to communicate. It's literally a less effective way to communicate. Port and starboard is used. I don't know why it's used. Perhaps it's used because they didn't know left and right existed. But left and right is a much better way.
You could be facing a different way.
It's all relative. It's relative to the ship. Port is always the ship is forward. Port is the left side of the ship, right? Just define, right? Okay, what's port side, Victor? It's like it's either left or right, right? Isn't it? Like left or right of the ship?
Sure,
I don't know what side. I don't know what side. I'm saying it's always, and assuming that the front of the ship is sort of up, right? And you have to know that when you say port, you have to know that the left side, that the front of the ship is up. Okay, if I say left side of the ship, you would still have to know that the front of the ship is left. Sure. Like if I say something's at 3 o'clock. Well, we know that 12 o'clock has to be straight ahead, whatever direction the vehicle or ship is pointing is 12 o'clock, right? How is that any different? Left and right is fine to use. It's what the words are meant for.
It's because
another
left
way.
And right can still be used for left and right.
I guess I don't understand because it's all relative to the ship. Like, for example, 3 o'clock could be used for the time.
If you're like manning a cannon or something, and
you say aim to the you say aim to the left or something. You're like, well, don't aim to the left.
No.
Aim.
I mean, because you can still mix it up, and you could be like, oh, pull that lever on the left. And you're like, do you mean left?
Well, from
my side, or do you mean
right? I know you're trying to come up with an
left?
example that would work, but I still feel like the context will always be clear.
That's just a reason for
I know
why,
you can't with the
real life.
But I feel like the context is quite clear. That it's like, go over here. Like if you're driving in a car. And you said, there's someone outside our left window. You'd be like, oh, cool. I know exactly what that means. You would never be like, what? I'm confused. When you say left, do you mean what, my left? Or do you mean your left? That's what I mean. It doesn't.
Small as well.
Well, the boats. I mean, to be fair, the boats aren't very big.
You can't really like turn around.
But the boats aren't very big in Sea of Thieves. It's not like it's. Well, you could turn. You could turn around a car. Like, you could be like, there's a guy behind us. You would never be like, oh, is it? Like, it's understandable. It's the direction of motion. Steel Soldier's always wanted here, first of all. Always wanted Steel Soldier. But it's the direction of motion, though. It's like, it's my point is that nobody would be, what percentage of people understands. If you say port, they're like, what? Huh? What does that mean? If you just said left, they would understand exactly what you mean. You would. The purpose is to communicate the information to them. And you're saying, no, my way is better. My way is better. But they don't understand what you're meaning. So your way isn't better.
No, I don't mean like in practice is of course.
Right, that's my argument. Is that it's not better in practice. You're arguing like why and I'm saying it doesn't make sense.
Powerful if you get used to it.
Is it though? Or is it just you're deluding yourself into believing that you're communicating? You're having a fantasy. Like you're having a fantasy. You know what I mean? Of like I'm a pirate. Yar! Port side. I'm in the Navy. Port side, starboard. We got some bogeys coming up. It's like saying bogeys. Like I got bogeys on my tail instead of saying there's enemies behind us, right? If you say I got bogeys on my tail, it's not to be an effective communicator, so stop arguing that. It's just because it's more fun to say there's bogeys on my tail. So if you just think it's more fun to say port and starboard, just say that. Because that's what you really think, isn't it? It's just more fun to say port and starboard. But objectively, it's not as good for communicating.
If you like really learn it,
why can't you accept that?
You know it like intuitively. It's much better than left and right.
But I've learned left and right intuitively. What if you said ship left and ship right? That would be better than saying starboard and port because everyone would understand it. Even if they'd never been on a ship before, they'd be like, oh, ship left. Okay, that's left of the ship. Got it. Ship right. Okay, cool. It's ship left, ship right. You could just say that. My point is that port and starboard are not effective words for communicating because it requires that the people understand what the terms are before they go into it.
Yeah, I'm not going to dispute
So left and right. And if you're playing with your friends, guess what? They're not sailors. They're dudes who work at Costco, and they just want to play a game. They're on an Xbox controller. Port, what does that mean?
I mean,
then all of a sudden you're going to get mad because they can't fucking figure it out. They're like, what do you mean port and starboard? What's that again? They're just going to start saying left and right. They're not going to say anything. Maybe one of your friends say port and starboard. The rest are going to say left and right because they're like, well, I know left and right. Like, this is easy for me. Port and starboard. Get the hell out of here. Trying to justify saying port and starboard. What about Nebil? Nebil, yeah, okay, they don't know who Nebil is.
I mean, Nebil has like say literal ship, so he says port and starboard.
Nerd, dude. Again, not, but if you were sailing with your friends in real life and they'd never sailed before and you wanted them to help, you can't be a douche. You gotta be like, oh, just go on the left side of the ship. You can't be like, oh, it's port. They're not gonna be able to help you. They don't know the keyword. They don't know the words, the terms. You're using like coded language, and they're not indoctrinated yet. And then they don't understand what you're saying because you're using words that no one ever uses in real life for ships. Like, okay, in terms of a problem that has to get solved, like I'm in a vehicle and I need to identify something on my left side. It's a problem that has been solved independently many times with the word left and right. Like we have figured out a solution for communicating direction.
Well, like when you're on the subway, they always say like, oh, the exit is on the left side in the trains, like direction or something like that.
Right, which is better than saying, what if they said like it was port? It was like, it's port on the, you'd be like, that doesn't, because again, left, it's like port means left, but left relative to the ship. Like that's what it means. Inside of it, in capitalized left. It's like, and maybe you could argue that that's more efficient because instead of saying ship left, you just say port. But in practice, unless everyone learns it, it's not more efficient because they don't know it yet. And so if you got your whole team together, and even still
I've never
it's
like
not that efficient.
Disputed that.
Yeah. Well, you're trying to argue.
If you know it.
Listen, you're being a port and starboard apologist right now. You're being like, well, if you have to say port and starboard, sometimes it's good. And I'm saying it's never okay to say port and starboard. If you're in the Navy and your commander tells you to do it, don't do it. Say left and right.
Don't you have something similar in the military, like where you say like clicks or something like that?
Like right, like you might say magazine instead of clip. Is that what you mean? Is that what you're saying?
No, clicks.
Like instead of like kilometer or something. For me personally, I don't know. I don't know because I never had to communicate distance, and so that could just be something from a movie. But I would say like magazine versus clip. They say because they want a standardized term. You know, they want everyone on the team to use the same term for communication purposes. If everyone uses the same term, we all understand each other, and that's what I'm getting at. That's why I say left and right because we already have been trained left and right. You know, and so as a team, it's better to use the terms that everyone understands. Like if you play a game, you know, like if someone's weak in any game, you might say he's one shot or something like that, or whatever, or he's going to die or something. My point is, you use terms that come from other games, even though it's not made for the game. Even though you might play Apex, and he's got no shields, but you still might say he's one shot, which might be a term from like Halo or something. You know, where it's like or his shields have broken, or his armor's broken. You might say armor's broken. You know, like if you're playing Halo, which is a callback from like Call of Duty or something or Modern Warfare. But you say that because it's a term that you understand, just like left and right. You son of a gun. You son of a gun. Do you use aft as well? What's the term for front and back? It's like aft and something else. Also, starboard objectively is a long term.
Stern and aft.
Yeah, fore and after are especially dumb because you can just say like forward and backwards or front and back or something. You know, like it's at the front of the ship or the back of the ship. It's fore. Like you can just say behind us. Like he's aft.
Stern and aft like the same thing, maybe.
I don't know. Also, if anything, you should just use clock directions instead of port and starboard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
If anything, because it's like that's far more data and understandable enough because everyone has seen a clock, an analog clock. Like it's reasonable to be like, okay, you can read a clock. You know where 3 o'clock is. You know where 4 o'clock is, 6 o'clock is.
Yeah.
And encoded in there is there's always directions. You know, it's always to the front of the thing. So cool. This is us just talking about nonsense while we waited for 11 o'clock to hit. Then 11 o'clock hits. You're like, oh, it's 11 o'clock. Okay. What did you know?
Yeah.
Daylight savings time, everybody.
Check out the mushrooms as well. Like
you check out the mushrooms as well.
And eye portal.
Check out the mushrooms, Victor says, and the eye portal. Okay. Hang on. Let me increase the song slightly so it's good enough. Let me also see something. I don't know if I want to. I might do it tomorrow. I don't know. Okay. You said the mushrooms? Okay. You said mushrooms. Mushrooms. Remember in Minecraft had the mushroom biome? I never got to experience it because I'm not going to replay the game for it, you know? Is it the mushroom model?
Oh, like rainbow mushroom.
Right. Is it the rainbow mushroom model?
Yeah, there is.
This might be too loud.
There are lyrics.
What's up? Oh, it's Mike Sharp. That's my brother-in-law. Mike Sharp. Went to Florida with him. Got very high. Many days. Got high looking at chickens. Thanks to Mike Sharp's help, I smoked 3/8 of marijuana in Florida. I was in Florida last week. Rainbow mushroom model. What is this? Is there a difference between model A, B, and C? Because they look to be the same.
No. They're the same.
You're just like, but maybe one day.
Yeah.
So just in case, if they want variety, I'll add A, B, and C. I can add variety later easily if I want to, sort of. I like that they still have the variable names like attack. Attack. Is dead. Is harvested. What does that do? Oh, I see. Actually, I don't see, to be honest with you. Also, this other thing is freaking me out. This like bot just keeps appearing. I'm like, is this part of it? It's not. Is harvested. There must be some animation delay here. Is that right? Poison mushroom harvested. What if I just turn off harvested? That's really, what a weird. Okay, it's an idle. If I go to is harvested, it's not moving. Or it's moving really fast. Or something like that is happening. Yeah, we should hang out sometime, by the way, Mike. That'd be fun. And you can bring Emily. Attack. Emily being my sister-in-law, my wife's sister. Attack. Oh, I see why it attacks, because it poisons people.
Yeah.
I was like, why does a mushroom attack, you fucking weirdo? I'm like, oh, right. I'm sure harvest works, just something needs to change about it, probably.
Yeah.
Probably just the transition needs to change, something like that. It's no problem. And is dead. This kind of looks like a nose to me. Is it a nose?
There's something weird with that as well. It shouldn't look like that. What the hell? Oh, there's some weird. What is that? Yeah, something that's weird with that.
Yes. Well, this music is 80s horror synth / dark synth mix. And there's a face of Freddy Krueger, murderer of children, right on the front page. And I support not the murdering, but maybe in some ways. Isn't that dark? A lot of horror stories are quite dark. Like, we're like, yeah, Freddy Krueger, I'm dressed up as him for kindergarten. Like, what'd he do? Like, oh, he killed a bunch of kids in a movie. And we're like, oh, that's pretty cool. All right, what was the other thing? The portal? Portal model? Is this it? Can I move it to like 0, 0? Yeah, that's good enough. Right, I think this is it. The eyeball portal. I think. What does a stagger portal look like? Like nothing or like something? What
Close
does
to-
stagger? Any state to stagger. Maybe it's not set up correctly.
Oh no.
It is not set up
No?
correctly. So I'm going to put stagger as true. And then
Oh, it doesn't even have the animation variables.
stagger, stagger. There. See? In what situation is it supposed to stagger, by the way?
Oh, when it's getting attacked.
You can't attack a portal.
What?
You're
How
just
do you
like,
tell
you don't. It just times out. It just goes away eventually. It just lasts for some amount of time. Because it turns people into portals or pizzas. They're near them, you know? So you can't attack it. It's a pizza portal. High doses of radiation.
Separate pizza portal that actually looks like a pizza slice.
Because this one is, like, well, this is a separate thing, you know? I just used the eyeball portal sprite for a placeholder, you know? Because it just was like, oh, this is like a portal, kind of. It also
because it was called like eyeball portal.
Oh, right. Well, I guess I think at the time I just didn't know what it would be.
Yeah.
You name a thing. But I mean, but also probably because I used the eyeball portal sprite. It was like, okay, let's call it eyeball portal because it's some sort of portal. But then other things like it generates power, for example, you know? Attack. Because this is more like a monster that you'd fight, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like some sort of Eye of Cthulhu type monster that you fight. And you're like, which is cool. Like the art is cool and everything like that's cool. Like it's cool as a monster. Because I think it's because there's an eyeball inside. So he looks like he belongs, you know, somewhere. There's also no transition is dead. But that doesn't work. That's not a big deal. Then attack. Should be attack. Is there an attack? Oh, there is. That's very cool. You gotta tell me these things. I don't know. I have to find them.
I thought it was set up.
Oh, no. I mean, to like click attack and stuff. Because often you just copy and paste these animations, and then they have the same variables, but they don't do anything, so I don't think to click on them. Like is moving, for example, is not implemented because why would it be, right? Like it can't move, you know.
Yeah.
And when they die, that seems to be. Oh, I see. It's transitioning from itself. How do you make it not transition like this? I see. So let's do is dead. There we go. Now I've killed it. Looks pretty cool when it dies, actually. Actually looks very cool when it dies. In a puff of smoke. And I'm guessing it's never gonna. Well, I guess if I stagger. Yeah, this is more like an enemy that can get like attacked.
It's not supposed to repeat like that.
Oh, that's not. That's what the death. All right, just that's a not
Yeah.
loop. That's quick.
Yeah.
I'll fix that. Like whatever. Rainbow mushroom. Nope. Eyeball portal. Dead. Loop time. Is it not? Where's the loop? I can never find it. Is it here? Is this where loop is? You have to click on this. Loop time. There it is. There's something really backwards, I think, about Unity's animation system in terms of usability.
Yeah.
Like, you have the animator, but then you also have to use the animation window. And then you have to click on the actual clips to, like, adjust them. Like, wouldn't it be nice if you could just click on, like, the animator? You click on eyeball, portal, death. And then somewhere in there, that's where loop is controlled. And even if internally it controls that by actually opening up the eyeball, portal, death, and changing the file, I don't have to know that. Just wrap it for me, you know? Like
Yeah,
you
but
should.
if you're using the same animation and like multiple animators, it's good to know that.
It
when
might
you
be
change
confusing. That's a good point. But in general, I don't know. I mean, even if you just had a separate, I mean, I would be okay with just a separate section in the inspector right underneath that says, "Hey, here's the clip this is for. This will apply to everything." I think that's fine. That's how prefabs work anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I think something like that would be okay. Because you have to just click off, and then you gotta like find it. Like, okay, here it is, and then go to the other one, and you can't just like quickly click on everything. Sometimes, depending on what you're doing, it's just such a real pain. Like, wouldn't it be nice if it was just right here? Like, I can see it's here. It's right here. And then you gotta do one more click, and go over here, and know that that's how it works. Besides, you have to change it in one place, so it affects everywhere else that it is anyway. You know. But of course, if it's in a separate spot, maybe you have a better awareness. Like, oh, there's a different file. Like, it's using a references file. If I change the file, other animations might break. But I don't know. I don't know much. But I know I love you, and that may be all I need to know. All right, what else? Is there any other cool art?
Well, there's a cuddler nest.
Is that new? Or is, I think it's new. I think it's new. Cuddler model, is that right? Cuddler attached. What is this? Let's find out. Maybe placeholder. Is it even done yet? Kind of. Kind of is. It's kind of tiny. You can't really see it that well. If this is ever a thing that the cuddler ever does.
Yeah.
It might not be. I don't mean to say it like a dick. I just mean like if it, to the people watching. Like, well, maybe they'll never do this, but it's just maybe it'll look like this. Monster Nest Cuddler. This is sort of the same that it was before, but a little different, right?
Yeah, now it has like a spawn animation.
Right. Because like the old one didn't have this much detail. It looked much more like this. Why can I not just like go to this? There. Monster Nest. Let me zoom out a little bit because Pixar, if you zoom in too much, it looks weird. You're like like this much maybe. And then a Monster Nest. Does it have anything? Produce? Okay. Sort of doing something. Yeah, right. Doop doop. And is dead. Let me pour bleach into it. This, I'm guessing, is the same problem here. Can transition to self? No. Do not transition to self. Is dead. Is dead. Produce. What does this do? Is dead as false or something? That's weird, so you can just reuse it, I guess. Okay.
Yeah.
Produce. 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 Just eating. It's like it's talking. Hello, Victor. It's me, Slime Monster. I missed you. I heard you want to play Pokemon Stadium in virtual reality. See, he's talking to you.
Did I have like eyes? And I look like Cookie Monster or something. Just wait until the idle animation chewing on the thing.
I'm waiting. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit so I can sort of see it a little better. Zoom out. Is he gonna do anything cool? We'll find out. I have to be patient. It's hard for me. To wait 10 seconds.
No.
The bone's moving. Oh, it's more of the eyes. I thought there was like a special secret thing. I don't know. Maybe there's a special thing. Or you were just saying wait for the just wait for the idol and then it will show eyes. Goodbye, BuildBot.
Yeah, just like where it nibbles on like.
Right. Yeah. Okay. If I had this, if I just go here, show the star map, sort of fun. Okay. One of the ideas I had, Victor, was this is going to be completely just back to Starmancer stuff. If we have crystals, things like the crypto miner won't make sense anymore. And I wonder if we could take this music is too loud for me. It's like blaring in my... There's like a thing I have to like balance both the stream output level, but then my own, how loud it is for me. You know? Something like this, maybe. And then the music will sometimes get really quiet, and then I turn it up to make sure that the levels are good, you know? But then if I turn down how loud it is for me, I have to do it in a way that doesn't affect the stream, and so that I can still hear you. It's a whole lot of stuff going on. We could maybe make it so the crypto miner is used to convert data chips into like quantum data chips. So it's part of the process to convert silicon from a tier 1 to a tier 2 resource. Just an idea, because then it could serve a purpose. And also, perhaps a programming terminal could be used for to make data chips, and then maybe you like upgrade it. Like you click on it and say pay $1,000 and turns it into a crypto miner or something that can do everything the programming terminal can do, but also some more stuff. And perhaps the art needs to change slightly to to accommodate that. And then similarly, the incinerator could maybe be used for some tier of metal. So you could have the workbench that makes metal. Then you could have a... the incinerator could maybe be used to make, like, the better metal. Because right now the incinerator's not doing anything. It might be fun if it just did the other stuff, you know? Just an idea. Yeah, or like a Sega Mega Drive where you slot another add-on on top of it. The only thing is, I want to avoid situations in which the user has to, like, if it's possible, I would prefer to avoid situations where the user, like, makes a room, puts a workbench in it, everything is good to go, it's the right size, and then later, like, at level 5, they have to place, like, the incinerator, and now they're like, oh no, I have to make a room, I have to make space for this incinerator amongst all my other stuff, and there's no space. So it would be best if somehow, like, when the player upgrades to, like, the tier 2 object, it somehow doesn't make them have to, like, delete the tier 1, and they still have, like, a space for it, or maybe it just doesn't matter. It's like a, don't even worry about it, you know? Hard to say.
I mean, it would be interesting if you place, like, the programming terminal, and then to power it up, you place, like, a bunch of crypto miners. Like,
I don't think that would be that interesting, specifically for the programming terminal, because it's such a low-level thing. Or maybe it's not, but it just seems like, because that's just like power with more steps, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, well, to power this machine, you need crypto miners, and does it have to get placed adjacent to it? Does it have to just get placed near it, like in a radius? Like it'll power anything within, 10 units. Do you have like a crypto miner farm, and you connect it with like a wire or something? Do you connect it with like data cables to anything that uses it? And then that seems like an awful lot of infrastructure for just one object. Do other things use it, Or is it not necessary? Do they not need to, Is it part of the setup process for the player? Like, oh, you have a terminal, but you have to, like...
What? As a, like, tier 2 thing?
Yeah.
So you start with the programming terminal, and to sort of upgrade it, you place, crypto miners, and it gets more powerful.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Higher tier recipes and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe that's fun. It's almost like if you had, like the ore refinery, and then at some point you're like, oh, I'm going to make a tier 2 ore refinery thing, but this is much hotter, so you now need to liquid cool it, or you can't do it or something. It's kind of like that. But I don't know if that's fun. That's the thing. Is that fun? I don't know. Maybe some stuff. Or because it's a lot of steps and a lot of spots where the player has to be communicating information about what to do. They have to be taught a lot of information to do that. And the end result is just that they get the quantum data chip. Like, is that fun? I don't know. Is it fun? I don't know. Maybe. If it makes sense, it can be fun. Like, it's good if there's more setup. It's always good if the user has to do more setup on their base that's, like, lasts forever, as opposed to volatile setup like they have to do now. But again, I don't,
It's possible we could also just keep money in and have, traders, and they use money.
What's the difference? That's separate from this. What benefit is really being added? If you still have to place a crypto miner no matter what to get tier 2, why go through all the burden of having a situation in which the crypto miner has to be placed sort of near the programming terminal? Like, what's really the purpose of it?
And maybe it doesn't need to be placed there. Maybe it needs to be anyway.
Yeah, but even still, what's the benefit? Like, okay, what if the user can just craft directly at the crypto miner? What is that? What's the difference? Because if they don't, we have to go through all the implementation.
But the programming terminal doesn't get obsolete once you get to the high.
Well, what if it's just an upgrade? What if it does everything what if it does everything the programming terminal can do, and also stuff that the crypto miner can do?
Well,
like basically, like in a traditional game. Well, not exactly. No, you're not. Because what you're saying is that there would still be a computer terminal, and then you'd have to place one or more crypto miners somewhere, and then those would be necessary, and then you have to connect them with wires or cables or adjacent or whatever, right? But those are somewhat necessary to, like, power as a fuel source the crafting, correct?
Maybe.
That's what you were describing, it sounded like, unless I was misinterpreting. Because you said, what if they had to use crypto? They place crypto miners somewhere, but they would still craft the programming terminal. What are the crypto miners doing? They're somehow allowing them to do it. Maybe it's not a fuel source. Maybe it's literally just you place it, and if you place a crypto miner anywhere, then all programming terminals in your base will be fine. Maybe. Like maybe it'll just say like place at least one crypto miner and have it powered in your base, and it could be anywhere. And then it's like okay, that's a little thing you have to place somewhere. You could do that maybe. But you see how that's considerably different than the crypto miner being a fuel source.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking these questions. Like it matters that like I'm just trying to get to what you mean. You know.
Yeah.
Because you could mean anything. You know.
On sort of like the principle of having like a tier 1 object and then placing like a new object, but you're still using like the old object.
Right. But is it and that could be fine. That could be better. I don't know. Because I was thinking it would be fun. You know, like in Starbound, you have like the workbench, and you upgrade to like a tier 2 workbench, and that does everything that a tier 1 workbench does. But also, you get new recipes. You get like tier 2 recipes. You know. And you don't have to like make a new thing. It's already in the spot it's in. It's the same size. You know. That's the advantage.
Do you really upgrade it in Starbound?
I could be thinking of a different game. It doesn't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That part doesn't matter. The part is that you understand the concept that you upgrade a workbench to a tier 2, and it's the same as the original workbench, but now it does new stuff. Again, it doesn't matter if a game does it or not. It's just the concept of it. It's a common thing in many games. You upgrade a workbench, and then it's now a tier 2, and then you can just do more stuff with it.
Yeah.
But the advantage of that is that everything's kind of in the same spot, and it's kind of a clear upgrade thing. And then also you would never place a crypto miner from the build menu. Instead, you would just place a computer terminal, and then you like click on it, and like you pay for the upgrade, and then like it just becomes the tier 2 one. You know.
Yeah.
It'd be like if like all beds started as like crappy bedrolls or something, and then you clicked on them, and then would like pay like $100, and they would become like wooden beds. And then you pay $100 more, and they become, sleeping chambers or something. As opposed to having to delete the old bed and then placing the new bed on top of it.
Yeah.
And then what you're describing is more like if you had a bedroll kind of, and then you would place, I don't know. What's something in like an alarm clock or something? Let's say alarm, doesn't matter, right? And then if you place an alarm clock anywhere in the base and it's powered, then all the beds become slightly better. Like that's kind of what that is.
Yeah.
Don't worry about my examples, because the bed example doesn't make as much sense as the crypto miner example. I think the crypto miner example is a much better argument. So don't like the alarm clock is stupid, right? But I'm saying more as a concept of what it would be for the player as a mechanic is that like, okay, they place a thing, then later they must place another object, which then sort of unlocks tier 2 of the thing, which could be fine. That could be okay. It could also be a thing.
The best part about that is that we still have like the art from the first object, and also the higher tier.
Another thing it could be is that there could be space around the computer terminal where you just can't build near it, and that space is reserved exclusively, and you can't even walk through it. Like it's reserved exclusively for the upgrades. And that way you'd upgrade them one at a time, but it's not a separate object you have to place, Because I do think there's something weird. Maybe there's something weird about like you have a computer terminal, like a programming terminal, and then you place the next thing just anywhere you want on the base. Doesn't have to be even near the thing. And I just think that's sort of a little bit weird. Another thing that's a little bit weird about it, and these aren't game breaking, these aren't things that like, oh, we can't do it. I'm just saying it's weird. There's a weirdness to it. I'm like, oh, it's not quite perfect, but it doesn't mean but it could still be the best solution we have. But another thing that's not quite perfect is when you place a programming terminal, there's presumably no reference to all the other upgrades that you are going to have to also place. You have to click on the programming terminal, maybe it'll tell you somehow. Whereas if the programming terminal was upgraded in a way where you just kind of, so I'll show you, where you just kind of click it, and then it's got space on the sides. So right now it's like kind of a 2x2 object. We could just say even 1x1, like one floor size. And I'm going to put some lights up too. Lights.
I think you're sharing your...
Oh, I am not. That's funny. Lights. Anyway, so it'd still be the size of a floor, but it would have extents where you can't build, and so its actual size is, I'll use, I don't know, test floors. Those seem good. So maybe its actual extents is something,
I think
like what I just saw. What I drew is too big, of course, but I'm trying to computer terminal. If I place the workbench, why is it a better example of what I'm talking about?
I think so, because it has like an additional thing you can disable and enable.
Oh, you're talking about
Which
something
sort
like
of
that.
looks like an add-on.
Well, I don't know which part you're talking about for the workbench, to be honest with you, because it's sort of big.
Because it has like the orange part, and then it has like the sort of computer terminal on the side.
Is my keyboard not working right now? Oh no, I pressed the wrong button. Maybe Unity was just messed up. I don't know. I can't say for sure. And I accidentally pressed play on Unity, so it broke it all. So I have to redo this all. But it's only like, it's going to be a little bit. Yeah, sure. But again, yeah, it'd be something like that maybe, where you just click a thing, you upgrade it. So like the way the ship is upgraded, for example, the hauler is upgraded. It just enables models on it. And if the user thinks of them as models, it's up to them. They think of them however they want. But the advantage there is that you can click on a thing, and the moment you click on the program terminal, it'll say like tier 1, and then you can upgrade it to tier 2 and to tier 3. And that might be more fun than having to just place a crypto miner somewhere in the world with all the regular, constraints. And also, if you can place a crypto miner anywhere, I think it's hard for the user to, at a glance, understand what tier of benches they're using.
Yeah.
Because they could place
they would probably
it
tend
anywhere.
to place them nearby anyways.
No, users do some crazy things, man. Users do some...
Because you have, like for the
some
kitchen,
nutty things.
like the cupboard.
Not if there's not space, though. I mean, and that's a very real thing, that there just might not be space for where they're put. I mean, it would depend on the size of the upgrades, of course. It would depend on a lot of things, But, I mean, I like to imagine that if I was making a workbench sort of room, what I would most likely do, I feel like, is I would just kind of make a room that's big enough for my stuff, however big that happens to be. And then I feel like what I would do is I would just place a workbench like in a corner. For me, I would just be like, okay, let me place it in a way that makes sense for this room. And I'd place it over here. And maybe I made this room way too big for my purposes. But I feel like I would do something like this, and maybe I'd put like a shelf or something. Like typically is what I would do. And this room has lots of space for additions. And if I had to move it, it's not really that much of a pain in the... I could move it. Like I could do that if I had to. Maybe the upgrades could be thought of as like StarCraft style upgrades. We have to physically place the thing. But that's like extra. But see, when you say those rules, it's extra development time. And what's it really? Is it adding enough that it's warranted? You know what I mean? So like you'd place like a crypto miner next to it, right? And then it would somehow maybe visually slot in slightly as they do, Come over here, guy. But is that fun? I don't know. Because then like what if you move? Can you move the workbench independently, and then you have a crypto miner that's like not slotted, and you have to give the user feedback like, hey, this isn't connected to anything. Do you care? Do you want it to be? So there's sort of all those problems that have to get like solved and figured out and talked about, and sometimes, must place additional pylon sort of situation where it's like, kill me. But at least like with pylons, because you can place them anywhere. It's just like a static number, like supply depot is a static number. You can be like, okay, I have to place them anywhere. It just increases the number of troops I can build. Okay. And also because it's an RTS, it's got slightly different constraints and what's fun and what's not fun, and what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. Just not sure. I mean, okay. I guess here's the thing. What is lost by us the first pass being that you just click on the workbench, you click a button, like it'll look just like the let me find the ship if I could. I don't know why I went to powered objects. Well, the reason I went to powered objects is probably because back in legacy reasons, who knows what things, because everything the build makes you is crazy places, and you just kind of remember it. Okay. But just like the ship, it would be upgraded first pass similarly to the ship, which is like this. You click on the ship, you click on like boarding mode, whatever, and then just enables these sort of upgrades sort of around it. Hey, what's up?
Yeah.
Ravens from Mexico. And what's lost there? Because not much, right? I mean, not much is really... Because then you're still testing like it... Because Because then what you're doing is you're getting right to the point where you can test, is it fun to even upgrade in this path? Like, is this fun? What does it cost to upgrade? Like, you're getting right to all those real gameplay concerns, you know? And you're kind of, and then you can avoid all the things that we're like, well, we don't know. I don't know.
Well, I think it's sort of
because it's not like you
with a
can't
kitchen,
change it.
It's fun because you can place, so many things individually, so that you can.
Right, but it's not a kitchen though. Because it's not like that. Well, I don't think it's good to think of it like that. Because like in a kitchen, you might have a lot of one-off things that are used for just one purpose. Like you might have like a juice maker, and if you're making pizza, you don't need the juice maker. But if you're making juice, you of course need the juice maker, right? I think it's like that's, it's a different, because you're making a lot of one-offs. But here I'm talking about like just specifically silicon and how silicon goes through the tiers, and there's not going to be that much you can make with silicon. So I feel like it's not really like a work. I don't feel like it's as much of a kitchen type scenario where you're placing a bunch of objects for just in case you need this one specific thing. I feel like it's more like you place the one thing, maybe you place like two objects, but you're not placing like a bunch of, like, again, in a kitchen, you would place a lot of things. You might place like an oven, maybe you place like a microwave, maybe you place like an ice cream machine, maybe you place, you know what I mean? Just a bunch of different things. And I don't know if what you're saying is quite the same. I think that the best similarity between a kitchen and crafting would be maybe like if there were objects you could place that would be like a food processor from The Sims, where you place it near a crafting station and like it increases the productivity of the colonists nearby or something, That's for me. That's what I feel like would be the similarities. I don't feel like the user is because I feel like there's not enough to do with metal where like you can like have these options, like, oh, I need to make like a metal shaver in case I need to shave the metal or something, And also, like,
it could just be that it just increases the efficiency of the programming terminal.
Yeah, sure, it could, yeah. But for these things, I still just want to keep it on like the tier of like, okay, going from tier 1 to tier 2, instead of side upgrades, like main upgrades, like, okay, what's the main upgrade? Like, how do you, like, if there's a tier 2 silicon, so let's say there's silicon, then it goes to data chip, okay, then we'll go quantum data chip. Well, what is the avenue by which the player converts silicon to the data chip? So probably what you do is you just take silicon, put it in the programming terminal, right? Click it, it makes it into a data chip. Okay, but then how do you take a data chip and make that into a tier 2 data chip, if that's even a thing that you can do? So my argument or idea is that you would then have to place another object to somehow upgrade it, and then you would still need the skill requirement too, and it'd be like a separate thing, so that like it looks different. So if you looked at it at a glance, you could see, oh, a tier 1 workbench that looks like crappy, but a tier 2 that everything starts to look cooler, or different or more advanced or something. I don't know, because you could just keep the workbench if we wanted to, and just use the workbench for everything, all the tiers. But is that as fun? I don't know. And also because for the money things, crypto miners wouldn't serve a purpose. And then also, though, things like incinerators are much more fun if they feel like you can kind of do sort of something. Because there's something not very fun about the workbenches where it's just so like menued away, It doesn't really feel like you're doing anything. It doesn't really feel like you're sort of converting. They just kind of do things. But maybe that'll change there a few items. It's just the player's main gameplay that they actually do is they build stuff. They place objects. They place things. So what you're really doing is you're placing things and setting up rooms. And then your colonists go into the rooms you've designed, and they do something interesting in those rooms. And so what I'm trying to do is like, okay, how can we take items and incorporate more of the, you have to sort of place something like that, like it's more sort of on the object and less on the colonists, Where it's like you need colonists to use the objects, but you have to build the objects as the player first or place them or something, Like you would think that, let's say that you could make like nuclear fission fuels or something. I don't know what that would be. I don't know the specifics of making of nuclear fission. But let's say you find uranium and you think, okay, well, how do I take uranium and make it into a fuel source, right? For like a nuclear reactor. You could just use the chemistry table, but it seems like the chemistry table shouldn't be for such basic things or for such advanced things. It should be for like, basic stuff, Yeah,
it would be much cooler to have, some kind of nuclear looking like radiation
Because it's like the machine is now getting better, you know?
Yeah.
Now, I know that uranium seems like it would be a very good example of a one-off, so don't think of it as a one-off machine. Think of it more of it as like, let's say you had an armorer's bench is a good example, so it's something that makes armor, you know? Let's say the first armor is wood armor, and the best armor in the game is, diamond armor like Minecraft. But again, we're more sci-fi. Is it fine if you just have a workbench the whole time? Maybe. Like Minecraft just has one, and it's like, okay, this is fine, because the resources are so good. Or is it more fun? Because again, this game is not exact. It's not Minecraft completely, not even a little bit. So I was using Minecraft as an example. Or is it more fun if you have to sort of upgrade the tiers, where it's like you start as like a workbench 1, then you can buy a workbench 2, which is an upgrade of the workbench, and now it can make diamond armor, and you couldn't even make diamond armor before. I don't know. Or is
strongest case for having separate sort of specialized things is that you don't have like a list of like 50 items to scroll through. And
yeah, but then you have a list of like 3 different machines. You have to like, which is the right machine?
Yeah.
Like, is that much better though?
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit.
I think so.
I mean, is it though? Really?
Because,
It's like, what's the machine again? Oh yeah, it's this one. Because if they just have 9 recipes, it's not that many. Plus, we could remove some of these recipes. It's not really. That is not my. That is not even anywhere near like why I would do this.
And also,
the number of recipes.
You can sort of see where the colonists are. They're like, oh, they're in front of the armor. They're making armor.
Well, you could see that anyway, even if it was a workbench level 1 versus a workbench level 2. I guess what's really different there?
Yeah, but if they're like walking down a corridor and you're like, oh, where are they going? Are they going
okay,
to
but
armor? Are they going to the work?
That doesn't have to do with this discussion, because they would still go to the armor crafting state. I'm not saying the workbench would be used to make armor. What I was specifically meant was tier 1 armor is made at like an armor. I said the workbench because the workbench exists, right? And then tier 2 is that also just made at the same workbench, or is it made at you have to place like a diamond armor machine that only makes diamond armor, or do you place like a machine maybe near the workbench that allows you to called like diamond compressor maybe, and it allows you to make diamond armor, right? Or do you still just use the workbench? You need diamond alloy, but to make diamond alloy, you need to make like a diamond compressor, and that's a separate. You know what I mean? That's the discussion I'm trying to get to right now. Is that like what is the avenue by which the player unlocks new tiers of things, and how do they do them, and then what's the way that's actually fun and sort of scalable, and not so crazy.
So maybe it makes sense that let's take armor for example. To have like an armory crafting station, and then to get like the better armor, you start with wood armor. You want to get like iron armor. So then what you said is you can either place like an iron thing that allows you to make iron armor, like an iron smelter or something. And either use the iron smelter then, or it unlocks the recipe on the armor station.
Right. So I think I just want to reiterate what you said. So I want to give you a fair thing. So I think what you said was, let's just say it again. Just say it again. I'll listen better.
Yeah. So you have like an armory station, armor crafting station.
Yep.
And you start with wood armor.
So it'd be like the workbench. I'm saying so like okay. So you have tier 1 workbench. It's a wood wood. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And then you want to make like iron armor.
And
so
and presumably you can't, because it can only make wood right now, right? Okay.
Yeah. So either you upgrade your current wood armory,
becomes like a tier 2 or something, and now it like unlocks iron armor recipes.
Now it's like an iron workbench or something. Yeah. Or you can place like an iron smelter thing, where either you craft the armor at the iron smelter thing, or you craft something that you bring back.
I feel like if we were to do this, I understand what you mean. I feel like it's best if there's one crafting station. Again, if we were to do this, I think what's best is one crafting station, and then the resources to create the resources that comes from a bunch of different objects.
Yeah.
I think would be sort of the best. Like for example, a quantum data chip.
So you
like
always bring it back to the crafting station.
Right. Like maybe like the crypto miner sort of gets like the crypto miner might like kind of enrich data chips. You want to think of it like that, and then it would have, so it'd be like, would it be like its own crafting station, or would it be more like sort of a furnace? You place a bunch of things in it, and then you come back later, and it gets ready to go. I don't know. Right.
So it makes sense that you place things to get the resources, and then you always bring it back to the same sort of like work. bench, workstation, crafting bench.
Right, because I think that it's important that the workbench is in a consistent place for the player. Like, that's like their spot. Like, that's their crafting spot. I don't want them to have to move that a whole bunch.
Very specific, like, oh, you have like a uranium.
Right, which is so like one-off. It's like, oh, this is clearly like a special kind of sort of thing. It's like, okay, it's, you know, it doesn't follow the traditional crafting avenue, which is why I felt like the crafting was like a weird. Like, another way to look at it is like potions or maybe food. Like, you might have one oven that is the final step in the process, which like the workbench is the final step. You take all the ingredients, the raw ingredients, you cook them, they become something. And so then maybe, again, I'm not saying this would be fun. It sounds like it could be a good idea, but so the thing instead for making like pizza is you'd have like a pizza dough maker, right? And so you make pizza dough there, and then you have like a meat slicer, and you take pork and you make pepperoni or something. Right? I'm just using these as examples, right? And then you combine, and maybe even have like a can opener, and you take a can of tomatoes, a can of tomato juice or pizza sauce rather. You open it, the can opener. I'm just saying as examples, right? Just like, oh, all this prep you have to do, these other objects to place to make a pizza. Then finally you combine the open can of pizza sauce with the dough you've made, with the pepperonis you've cut, with the cheese that you made with the because you have a milk pasteurizer that makes cheese, and then you combine all those into the oven for the final product, which is pizza. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Would it be like that? And that might. I think that could be fun.
The oven is always like in the center.
I think that could be fun. I think because the idea is that if you're limited by like, let's say, enriched data chips, you'd place more crypto miners. I think I think that could be fun. Like I said, I don't know. Similarly with the incinerator, what you're describing is that maybe you make metal at first of all, the refinery should get switched. Like, it's too big, right? Isn't it, the refinery? It's like it doesn't look like a tier 1. Anyway, but I'm not blaming you for that. I'm simply saying, just recognizing the info. It was designed forever ago. It's like, duh. I was fine with it when it was designed too, right? So just because you're the person who designed it doesn't mean like you're the person who's like to blame for it or something like that. Like, no one's to blame for it. It's just the way it goes. Constraints change, things change, right? So I just want you to feel like I'm like being like, God, Victor, it's too big. Why would you make something so big? That was stupid of you. So it wasn't stupid at the time. It made sense at the time. Right. Yeah, I don't know. That might be fun. Cause I thought about that as well, and I just wasn't.
It was nice where
also there's more
you
freedom
sort of see things grow sort of naturally.
Right, because really what I want is I for sure want the player to place more objects as they unlock in tiers, and I want those objects to look sort of like, oh my god, I have like a workshop, like I've advanced, you know what I mean? I have all these things I didn't have before, like for example, like, okay, would this be fun? Okay, so I'm gonna describe two different things of making armor. So in one way, you take metal at the armor station and convert metal into armor. The second way, or a second way, would be you take metal and then you have to put it in a machine called like the I don't know, the metal alloy creator or something. It'd have a better name, right? And what that does is you take metal and it converts it into metal armor scrap, like chunk or something. Do you get what I'm saying? Where like you take the metal and you have to convert it into like armor material or something, like, and then you take armor material and that goes in to the thing. Like, which one's more fun? I don't know, right? Which one is more fun for real? And I almost think that placing separate objects is more fun because that's how players craft. In our game, is they set the object like, okay, craft here. Also, I feel like crafting stations, when you mouse over them, should tell you like what you have queued up, maybe, or something. I also think that if most crafting stations had only a single item they could make, they might be more fun and understandable. But I'm not positive on that specifically, but I almost feel like it might be a little better, Yeah,
I'm thinking less items.
Right.
Easier it is to control as well.
Right. Especially in this genre of game,
A robotics lab, for making bots specifically.
Right.
Then maybe you could still make bot parts or you could make like gears or something at the workbench, and then you bring those gears to like the bot lab.
Also, it's a pretty easy way for us to extend the playability of the game, and I think the fun, because a lot of when you're making a game is you can't just give the user what they want for fun, and you want to because you just want to be nice. It's like when you have a kid, like a child, and like my kid wants to eat like candy for breakfast, and he'd be happy if he had candy, but you're like, you can't have candy, you gotta do a chore first. That way you've earned the candy, and you feel better about eating it. Yeah. If I just give it to you, you get bored and start crying or something. But it doesn't feel good because you know that you're doing it kind of artificially, That's the weirdness about making games. You're like, well, I have to delay you from getting the armor because you'll have more fun if I do that. Trust me. And you're like, but when we're playing as developers, we never go for that. We just cheat and give ourselves armor because that's what we all want to do, you know? Because we play like a little kid. And we want the players to play like players. It's not as it's more complicated than in real life, of course, right? Because it's really more about the element of surprise, and it's actually about understanding that you've done the correct steps. It's about that feedback, that you're doing the right things. And if you have to place like a machine that converts metal into armor pieces, you know, and again, I want to say like armor alloy. We need a better term, right? For what I've just made it up, right? This is new to me. I haven't come up with a better term, right? But if you play the separate machine, there's something that's like permanent about that. You're like, oh, I have to place this, then I can do that. Interesting, cool. Because the alternative is that you would, let's just say maybe everything's on the workbench. Then all of a sudden, when you want to make like, you know, if you want to make metal versus armor, you all of a sudden to be like, well, which one do I want to make first? And I want to make sure that I place another workbench just so I can make more armor because I want to prioritize it. Who do I assign to work there? There's all sorts of things, you know.
To set the priorities for different, you know,
stations. Plus, I think it's fun if there's like a complicated journey that items go on to come into the world, like pizza.
And you can see the colonists like carrying things
or
back and forth.
Beer is always my argument. I love the idea of being able to craft beer. And I think the coolest thing the player wants to see is that they have a brewing tank and it's full of raw product. And then because it's full, all they have to do now is wait. And they know they have to do is wait. And once they wait like a game day or something, they're like, oh, cool, my beer's done. Awesome. And then maybe to make beer, and they want to make sure that their whole production line is good. So they look at their farm, like, okay, my wheat's still good. And then maybe there's a machine that converts wheat into like raw distillate or something. I'm just making up words here, to be clear. Raw distillate. And then you take raw distillate and put that combined with water into the alcohol, you know, the brewer. I think something like that is very interesting because you could say, oh, are all my distillate machines, are they good? What's my level of distillate? Is it good? Okay, cool. Or it's not good, you know? Even as opposed to just placing raw wheat, I almost think that it's more fun to have the distillate, like where it's like the refined product. Because once it becomes the, you know, alcohol distillate, it can only be that one thing, which is alcohol. It's never for anything else. It's like you're taking the raw material, and it has a bunch of paths that can go on, you know? And you choose what path you kind of want to go on using your available supplies, you know? I don't know if that's more fun. It just sounds more fun, but I think the danger is that often we can get caught up in what is the fantasy. The fantasy sounds fun, but is it like in moments? I mean, like we get caught up in moments. Like, oh, that would be a fun story. That'd be such a fun moment. Because you picture like, oh my god, and the chef's making pizza dough, and I can see him making pizza. I'm so excited because he's gonna have the pizza soon. Oh, it's so fun. And then in practice, you play like, this is boring. This is awful. This is so much micromanagement. This is not fun. This is only fun if you're very generous, you know, with like the fantasy of it. And that's what I'm trying to avoid is those moments of like, oh, it's cool, but is it fun, you know?
Yeah.
And that's
because
hard.
There's also a lot of things going on all the time.
Right.
And if you need like to make pizza all the time, and it's going to be
Right.
Didn't there used to be a recipe for making upgrade models?
I don't know. I don't know if there's ever been one for making upgrade modules. Maybe a long time ago. I don't think the users should necessarily be able to craft upgrade modules because I don't like upgrade modules that much to begin with, to be honest with you. Rather, I wouldn't even want to spend time implementing something you can craft because I don't even know if I like upgrade modules. I don't like the idea of having one universal upgrade token combined with the way upgrade modules are earned right now. I think really the issue is how upgrade modules are earned right now is an issue. And to be able to craft them would just, I sort of think, further complicate the issues. Unless you have to get okay, if there's a little thing you're not saying, which is like, oh, well, maybe there's a rare resource you have to get to craft upgrade modules, then that could be, yeah, okay, maybe that's okay, you know? Right, but... like, I would almost prefer if upgrade modules were thought of as more of like maybe diamonds in Minecraft. So in Minecraft, maybe I'm making this up a little bit, but let's say once you've made up, you know, all the diamond tools you need, diamond doesn't have much of a purpose in Minecraft, and it would be interesting if you could use like one diamond to like upgrade like a bed in Minecraft to like a diamond bed, you know? It's a better bed now or something. So then if you ever find diamond, it's always worth it, and it's like, do I use it to make a diamond pickaxe or do I use it to upgrade stuff? I think something like that might be fun. Because then you always have a use. It's always exciting if you find diamond. You never have too much diamond, you know. Whereas I feel like Minecraft is balanced in a way, and it's fun. Minecraft is of course a fun game, but I think it's balanced in a way where the diamond is always so scarce that it never becomes an issue. And if you have an excess, like the most diamond you might have excess is like 30 or something. Like not like, because at a certain point you're like, I just don't need more diamond. I'm not going to go find it because I don't need it anymore. So you stop. Because things like iron, you can find on your way, or redstone, you can find on your way to doing other things. Like if you're looking for diamond, you're going to find iron on the way. So I might as well get it and I'll stockpile some extra iron. But diamond is so out of the way to get. You're really only down there to get just diamond, and it's so rare too. Like if you're trying to get lava, the best way isn't even to go to the let's just say you were going to the bottom, of the world to find lava. You'd get lucky if you found diamond on the way. You're gonna get the lava, probably no diamond, so because it's so rare. So I think that's how they balance it. And I think that, can sometimes be okay too. But then if you want to use it for real things like upgrade modules, then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit. Also, rare cosmetics I think is really fun. Right, it is useful because it will atrophy, so you kind of keep it. But the diamond tools last for so long. Again, you're right. You do need to go back. But at a certain point, you got enough where you're like, okay, I don't. And the thing is, it is always exciting for me in Minecraft to find diamond. I've never once gotten a diamond and been like, oh, this sucks. Because I'm always thinking like, oh, thank God, this is, if you go on a journey and you get like 6 diamond, you're like, oh, cool, this is 2 diamond pickaxes. Nice. I'm glad that I got this. But specifically with diamond in Minecraft, it's like, it's so, like you have to kind of go, you have to try to find diamond to find diamond. You wouldn't just sort of find diamond in the wilderness unless you got lucky with like a villager or something that, had a diamond or something. Yeah. But then for us, for upgrade modules, we're like, well, we don't want upgrade modules to be that rare. Like we don't want them to be like a thing where it's like the diamond, but do we? Maybe it's fine if it is, right? But that seems like so like, because you don't get diamond. Diamond's like the end game of Minecraft, Do you want people to upgrade objects till the end game? But then again, in Minecraft, you can also get there pretty quick. It's like it's a weird thing, isn't it? No. Like if I play Minecraft, I could probably get right to diamond in like an hour or 2, right? I don't know. I wouldn't know how long it would take, but not long. But then the first time I played, a tough thing. You're trying to balance things. There's always things you're trying to do. Like, oh no. Like basically, what you're trying to do is you're trying to prototype it in your head, run the scenario through in your head, and try to figure out what the problems are to save time before you prototype it. Because you'll prototype it and find these issues, and you'll be like, oh, okay, but that's going to take so much time. I haven't played in so long, dude. What is netherite? I don't even know what that is. I think I'll play like mod sometimes, but it's always in like older versions. Like I think I once played on a modded version that had horses, which was like 10 or something, like 1.10 maybe.
Wait, didn't they add actual horses?
Yeah. And no, what I was saying is I think I've only played once because the modded versions are always are so far back, because for legacy reasons.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I definitely had the nether for sure, 100% had the nether, and then they had like those fortresses, and there were like those blaze soldiers were in those fortresses, and I think they had like blights that were like cloud monsters that would shoot fire at you. That could have been a mod though, because sometimes I get confused, because I rarely played vanilla.
Upgraded the nether. There was like a caves.
Would you say like a year or 2 ago, like recent? You mean? Yeah. Or maybe even 3 years? Because I haven't played like in so long.
Like 1 year.
Yeah. I played when they had the terracotta blocks once. I know that.
That was like 10 years ago. No.
Right, it was forever ago. But I'm saying that even might be like the newest time I played vanilla. And I remember, and I played with my wife, and they had terracotta blocks, and terracotta blocks were cool but awful because you had to get like clay to build them. And what really sucked is like Sarah learned how to build the terracotta blocks, and then we played on a modded server that was older, and she went so out of her way to get clay. And she was so sad when she got the clay. You could tell she was bummed out. She got the clay, and she's like, oh, like there's no terracotta blocks here? Oh, that sucks. But because in her head, she's like, it's so pretty. I want to like, make these pretty things. But I'm like, oh, there's other pretty blocks in the mod. Don't worry about it. Oh, that's really cool. So a new tier. That's really fun. And that makes sense because the nether's hard, right? Because the nether was always just sort of there. It was like the nether was cool, but it never really had a purpose. It was just kind of cool, Like there were pigmen in there. And I think eventually they added things like blaze rods. You'd kill the blaze. You'd use those to find fortresses or something, which you would use to then go to the end. But I never did that, ever, because I didn't care. I don't care. I didn't care because when stuff's added after you play, I don't care. Like Terraria, I don't care about the new hard mode.
When they updated the nether, they added like different kinds of biomes in the nether. So there's like nether, some kind of like forest thing or something like that.
But here's like the weird thing about Minecraft is it's so popular. Do they need to change the formula? I don't know. I genuinely don't know, you know? It's like, and I'm not asking, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm being serious. It's like, because kids play Minecraft, like a lot of kids, and kids are fine with a simple thing. Like, do they have to keep adding more and more content for us, the adults, that get bored of it, you know?
Well, I mean, kids do get bored, so.
I guess.
Kids wants, all the stuff.
I guess. I'm picturing like 12-year-olds. Do 12-year-olds? Like, in my mind, 12-year-old kids are just like building houses and doing the basic stuff, but they're not like, maybe they are. Those nerds. I would have been the kid that like was not just building. But I'm speaking to like casuals. I'm saying in terms of profitability, Minecraft is incredibly profitable. Like, incredibly profitable. And I don't know, like, you should be risky. You should be apprehensive about changing the formula in any way. Adding netherite doesn't change the formula. That just adds to it but then if you have caves that are in the main world, and Steel Soldier says, we're going to have some harder content if you go really deep down. Well, that is changing the formula, isn't it? Because maybe now diamond's harder to get. Unless I'm misinterpreting it.
Continuation.
Because if it's like because Minecraft out of the fortresses are they're not part of the loop, the main gameplay loop. They're like a different thing, and they also don't make the game harder because you have to go out of your way to find them, And if you see them, just avoid them if you don't like them, Or like when they add witches to Minecraft. Witches aren't really part of the main enemies. They're just there and it's fun. But then when they added Enderman, I feel like that was maybe changed the formula too much, and that was like 10 years ago now. But like, do you remember when they added Enderman? Because I do, and I remember like these motherfuckers. They're hard to kill, and they would just move blocks. And I'm like,
steal the blocks, yeah.
Yeah,
but they removed the block stealing at least.
But also as enemies, they're like really spooky and hard. Like zombies are easy; they make sense. Skeleton archers easy; they make sense. Even the spiders, they make sense. It's okay, no problem. They behave like spiders. They behave like zombies. They behave like skeleton archers. Even creepers, although you don't understand them, they're just like suicide bombers. Like those are a typical trope of enemy, Like even in Lord of the Rings, when Helm's Deep was exploded in the movie, it was basically a suicide bomber did it, right? Like suicide bombers make sense to us. My point is all these make sense to us. Endermen were the first enemy that was unique to Minecraft, and so you have no idea what the hell this thing even is. It's like some kind of demon shadow creature, that will like portal into your base, makes weird noises. You don't know what the heck how you're supposed to deal with it, and also you can't just close the door to get rid of it because if it sees you, it'll teleport inside. So I'm just saying like my point is that the Enderman really changed how Minecraft was played. Well, not really, but they changed how monsters, they changed night a little bit, Oh, I see. So getting diamond isn't necessarily hard. I haven't played vanilla Minecraft in a long. And then I always wonder, I'm like, what does Minecraft do with Minecraft? What did Microsoft do with Minecraft if they bought it? I was always wondering that because they paid so much. They paid like, it was $2 or $4 billion for it, like, which is insane. And from a business perspective, they thought this is worth it. This is a strategic, and I always assumed it was more like it was a strategic purchase from them, that they were just getting all of the power and influence of Minecraft, which was a lot. I mean, an entire generation of gamers was playing Minecraft. And when Microsoft bought it, they essentially bought an entire generation of gamers. That was the hope, at least, I think that when the company who owns a game, I think there's some loyalty, but I don't think there's like that much loyalty for a game. To the sense where everyone's gonna I think like everyone will give you like 5 seconds. They'll give you a shot. They'll be like, I'll try your new game because we love your old game. But that's all they're giving you is the shot, like they're giving you a chance. And if your game's not good, they're still not gonna, you're still gonna, go nowhere. What is this? Like a mock-up of a thing? Because I'll open up Chrome real quick. Is this like a mock-up, or is this real? Like this is so interesting looking because they have like, what are those things called? Like stalagmites or stalactites, something like that. Very interesting. Oh, yeah. Very, very interesting. And there's lava down there. There's some blue blocks. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Also, in our case, it's just the two of us. Like Minecraft, they have like, once Microsoft bought it, I don't know. But then again, like you look at like 343 and like 343 is a Microsoft company, and it's not like they have an amazing track record, but they're very profitable. Like I guarantee Halo Infinite was very, very profitable, and it was amazing for padding all of their resumes on all of their because the average person isn't that passionate about Halo Infinite, and the average person barely even knows that Halo Infinite came out, barely even is aware of it, right? So if you worked on Halo Infinite is not like popular for a Halo game. The community as gamers are like, it's not. It's the sandbox is good, but like everything else, kind of we stopped playing. But it's professionally a success and it's financially a success. And everyone who worked on Halo Infinite can put that on their resume and say, yeah, we launched Halo Infinite. It made like $100 million and all this stuff, you know? And I don't know. Sometimes I think that's how Microsoft views games because they're a company that's trying to make money. And so they make a bunch of money off these games and they're technically profitable, you know? And also you can make a game profitable by really extending the market. Like Victor, what percentage of people do you think like even play first-person shooters in the world? Like a low percentage, like a very low percentage of people in the world play first-person shooters. Like, what? And I'm talking like, and I mean the whole world. I mean like people who live. I mean people who have technology. I guess I don't consider like an Amazon sort of person who lives in like the forest. But I mean like of developed nations who have technology. Like what percentage of people? Because like my dad doesn't play first-person shooters. My wife doesn't play first-person shooters. Even most of my friends don't play first-person shooters, and my friends are all people who play games, you know?
Yeah.
So so I feel like Minecraft had like basically like 100% of the audience who played video games, or like 80%. They had like a crazy high percentage, you know?
Yeah.
Of people who play video games have played Minecraft. Like that's insanely high. And then if Microsoft just increases the number of people who play video games by appealing to a more casual audience, the game itself might get worse, but they'll make far more money, you know? And so us hardcore people are like, well, it's actually worse. It's not a better game, but it makes more money. And so what is Microsoft supposed to do? Are they supposed to focus on making more money and ensuring that their employees can keep having jobs and feeding their families? Or should they worry about me, a 30-year-old, playing a video game and being bored, you know? And I'm not being facetious. I'm not trying to I'm not being like hypothetical here. What's the term when you say something you don't want someone to answer? Like you don't actually mean the question, you just say it.
Rhetorical.
What'd you just say?
Rhetorical.
Yeah. I mean like serious. It's like it's a thing. It's like what should Microsoft do? Because if you work at 343 and you're the boss at 343 making Halo, you might have a bunch of employees that you like, and if you make the wrong decision, they'll get fired because there won't be the funds, you know? Do you think that do you think there's a weight of stress that they have for ensuring the legacy of Halo goes on? And then what's the stress that the boss has to make sure that their employees have food and can go on vacation and can see their family and can keep having this job? And because if you make the wrong decisions, people's lives will get fucked up forever. They'll have to move, you know? Their kids will have to change schools. They'll miss their friends. It'll permanently alter the lives of your employees if you make too big of a mistake and mess up and run the company to the ground. So, you know, I'm just saying, like, I can have empathy for them for why the games kind of suck, or aren't as good, in my opinion. Also, this looks really cool. Man, you know, when I see these images, Victor, what I think of all the games that try to be Minecraft clones around that era and how this is what they'd look like. How what they did was they took Minecraft and they said, you know what? The generation could be better. And they made the generation better. And those games are never successful. Why? Because it's the fucking gameplay that hooks people, it's like you want a game that's fun and also has dope sort of realistic worlds. You tell me Minecraft has a realistic world, I'm like, this is awesome. But I'm saying if you start with a dope world and the mechanics aren't there, then we just don't really play the game, you know? Then again, the games could even be better than Minecraft, but all I'm saying is I think the mechanics are really important, and it's really important. I think that's where indie games have a chance to really thrive and are thriving and have been thriving, is because indie games have a small team. The developers have to focus on just the fundamentals. They cannot. We're like the WNBA, right? We cannot have all this other big stuff. We can't, because here's the thing, you know, and I know a little bit, right? That when you're professionally making a game, a lot of what the suggestions end up being professionally are for things that you can wrap your head around, which are, what if we add more art? What if we make it prettier? Because it's very easy, because if you make a game prettier, it is better. And it's easy on paper to justify that expense, isn't it? Because if a game looks better, it will sell better, and it is more fun if a game looks prettier, you know? It's very easy to be like, let's put more artists on this to really make it look cool, you know? It's much harder to try to justify to, you know, professionally to anyone, you know, to like a Microsoft company or to publishers or what have you, to be like, hey, we think that like the mechanics need to get solved, and we're going to spend time figuring out what the best use of iron ore is in our game, you know? And if you're just a shareholder or like a publisher or Microsoft type who just sees Minecraft builds like every month or every quarter, you know, how the hell do you justify that the game looks identical, but trust me, it's much more fun now? That's really hard to do. And also, if you're trying to justify to your boss, like, hey, boss, I know you're my publisher or whatever, and I know you wanted me to make Minecraft more fun. Well, here's what we did. We took ore and we made it more fun. And they said, okay, how can you prove that's more fun? You'd be like, I don't know. It's, you know, whereas art, you can just put in front of people and they're like, yeah, it looks better, you know. And so I think the early game has to be engaged. I think engaging is the right term, Steel Soldier. Is like it has to hook you. It has to be fun and slow and hook you. And as a person invests more time, they're okay with it being more and more complicated. And that's why a lot of games that are hard to get into have such a passionate fan base, because once you get into them, they are really, like Tarkov. Once you get into it, it's like, okay, this is really fun. But if you have to invest too much time, it's not fun. And also, here's another thing. If you make the biomes more complicated like they have, there's more visual stuff, it is harder to find resources because there's more junk. There's more stuff blocking you. And that can have, side effects that weren't intended. You know what I mean? Like, you make the caves prettier, but all of a sudden there's more visual clutter. You can't see diamond as easy. And that can be frustrating and just more taxing to play the game. So it's tough. It's such a tough thing. Making games is so tough.
I mean, when they added the, what are those called, like the witches? They do appear like in normal...
Yeah, no, what I meant is they don't appear at night. They're not a part of the normal, like, monster
said they appear
things.
Like in caves and stuff.
Oh, really? I thought they just had huts that they would appear in.
No.
I'm wrong about that. So because I thought when they first added witches, there were witch huts. Because I never saw a witch anywhere except it might have been at first.
Yeah.
Because I don't play vanilla very often.
Yeah.
But at first, it was just in like a witch cave, and my point was, if you saw it, you saw. Even adding witches in caves, I'm okay with, because like that's a separate thing. It's like it's just affecting the cave gameplay, you know. Well, I mean, I would be apprehensive of it, but I'm saying it's like a safer thing to do. Like if you look at like the systems, the patterns, how the gameplay, the loops, the mechanics, right?
Yeah.
Because at night, the basic gameplay loop at night is I'm on the surface, right? So surface is early game at night. Mid game, you're going in caves. So I think it's okay if they add things that are only for mid game, you know. Like lava is like a mid/end game hazard in Minecraft. It's not an early game hazard, you know. My point is to show that like different things in the game, they affect different tiers, different stages of players, you know. And then when they add the Enderman, it's like you're a new player, early game. All of a sudden, there's freaking Endermen or running around in fields. You can't even look at them. If you look at them, they'll attack you. And so you're a new player, want to be like, what is this? Can I observe this? How does it move? What does it do? And it'll look right at you and teleport at you. And you hit it, and it flies away. And then it comes back. And you're like, could you stop, please? Could you stop? Yeah. And also the way that you solve every other problem in the game is you just build a wall around you or close a door. You know what I mean? Put blocks between you and the enemy. It works for everything. It works for everything, but not Enderman. So my point is that Enderman, changed sort of how the player has to play mechanically the nighttime on the surface. And I think that's where you need to be very apprehensive, and that's where I'm getting into is like you need to be very apprehensive before you have these changes because, especially with Minecraft, in Starmancer's case, like Starmancer isn't, we're not that popular, so it's like, well, maybe we do need to change the formula. But in Minecraft, I think it's hard to say that Minecraft needs to change its formula because by what metric is it not successful? By what metric is it not fun? Is your argument that it could be more fun? Sure, anything could be more fun, but you better be careful because right now it's really fun. It's really fun right now. And if you change that formula, it could be less fun. And you're trying to argue, I mean, like hundreds of millions of people must play the game every single year. So anyway, and if you change that, it's like, ooh, better be careful. But yeah, I think adding things like netherite armor, totally safe because that's only the end game. It's affecting players who are way over in a loop that's way over here. It's not affecting the early loops. So you have these loops, and the loops keep getting bigger and bigger. And sometimes you go back to the old loops, like an early game loop is like you knock down trees with your hands. That's an early game loop, very early, very small loop too. It's very easy to get out of it, right? And you get out of it, and then you build a block, you build like a workbench, and now you're out of that early game loop. You never have to go back to the hit wood with my hands loop, or like you never have to go back to the find a place for a base loop. That's an early game loop you play. Like I need to find a spot for a base, and when you make nighttime more difficult, you make that loop more difficult, and all of a sudden it's more of a pain in the ass to find the right base. You have to settle eventually, I don't know. I'm just saying these are just things to consider making a game. Is like sort of how people play them, right? But they are loops, and the way you get wood is the same way you acquire every resource in the game, which is you hold left mouse, it punches it, the little blocks kind of like go, they fill in or whatever, gets destroyed, you get the material, and you use it. And you learn that. So very quickly the game gets you to the point where it's mastering the basics of the game, which is I hit things, they drop, it goes in my inventory, like all, to get out of the wood loop in the first 5-10 minutes, it forces you to learn everything about so many fundamentals of the game. And I think that's so important. And that's why I hate tutorials in games, because I always feel like tutorials are just band-aids for poor game design. I think sometimes tutorials are necessary, but they should be rare. Like tutorials should never be. Or you could think of games as having tutorials, but the tutorials are like introducing mechanics slowly to players. And you could call those tutorials, I suppose. But I think that's why games are transitioning to those as well, because that's the way people learn, is by one thing at a time. Let me get one thing, get this fundamental, move on to the next thing, you know? Like if you're learning the guitar, you don't learn everything about the guitar first. You literally learn just maybe to strum. That's it. You don't even learn chords. Just learn how do I strum open, you know? How do I... And then you learn chords maybe. And you're like one chord. Like maybe a chord that requires one finger. You learn that. And then maybe you learn one that requires two fingers. But if when you first started, you had to do like crazy chord switches just to even start playing the guitar, you'd be like, this isn't worth it. I can't. It's too much. I don't care. I don't care enough. I don't care. I haven't seen the fun of it yet. And right off the bat, you're telling me I got a lot of work to do. Like I don't want to do that. You know? No, thank you. It's like imagine if there was a game like Warhammer 40K with the figurines where you have to paint them yourselves. That's a huge barrier to entry. And there might be a lot of people that would love playing with Warhammer figurines, but they never do because like I don't really feel like painting them. I don't even know if it'll be fun or not. It's not worth my time investment to do this. But after you've been playing for a while, you know, you might start painting. You'd be like, oh, I want to get into more. I want to see more. What more is there to offer here? And I think that's what you have to strive to do for games. Be like, it gets them to a point where they're like, okay, I'm bored. What more is there to do? I figured this out. What more do I do? What do I do next? How do I take what I've learned and go do more with this? You know. So you really want players to feel like they have a solid fundamental and then to work off that fundamental. You know. So for example, in guitar, if you're strumming, that's a skill that you use at all levels of playing guitar. You'll never not need good fundamentals for strumming. And you can always go back to strumming if you have to. Just strumming. You could do an okay song well, not really, but you could do like an okay song just strumming, you know. And that's a tough thing with games. You introduce too much too fast, and I think that that's what's happening. I think also when you're making things, TV shows, movies, games, whatever, I think there's a tendency to look towards the things that you see as successful and popular, and you try to emulate them. And I think that's a good thing to do, but something gets lost. Because often you'll look at what a game does and you think that that's all there is to it. So Day9 would say a great thing about StarCraft. He would say, you know, that the low-level players, they'll watch pros play. And when the pro, at the end game, they might have a bunch of siege tanks and the other enemy might have a bunch of Marines or something. And the Marines beat the siege tanks, or the siege tanks beat the Marines, whatever, right? And the new player might think, the new player just sees siege tanks. They think, oh, I must build siege tanks. So they rush to build siege tanks and they lose every time. Why? Because they weren't looking at the early game where the siege tanks were just a response to something later that happened, you know? So I think that when you're trying to copy things from other games, is you often look at it and you think, oh, okay, Minecraft has enemies that come out at night. That's the fundamental. So we should have enemies that come out at night because that's fun, you know? And it's like, well, maybe that's not fun. Maybe that's just fun in Minecraft. You have to really stop and think, well, what are the enemies doing? Why do enemies exist? Do the enemies exist so you have to go inside at night? Do the enemies exist so that it's not so hard or not so easy to get the materials you want? Like, what's the purpose? Do they exist so that the world feels more real and dangerous? Do they exist so that armor feels more fun, weapons feel more useful? Do they exist so the player has to build a base, you know? And they're effectively endless as well, right? I'm saying, what, you know? So it's easy to look at Minecraft and be like, oh, Minecraft's fun. They just need more interesting caves. And then games will try to copy Minecraft. They have some more interesting caves. You're like, well, you missed the part that you don't really see, you know? Which is that like nighttime in Minecraft is so fundamental to a lot of Minecraft. I mean, it's even fundamental to wanting armor. It encourages you to want to get armor and weapons for your stuff because you want to solve the problem that the game feels like has innately created. And the thing is, like, there's no reason that enemies have to come out at night at Minecraft. There's no someone decided or someone decided arbitrarily that we're going to make a rule that enemies come out at night, and we accept it because it seems organic. It seems like it makes sense for the rule. Just tell us the rules of the world. This is the world of Minecraft. Monsters spawn in the dark. Great. I accept it. And then a lot of problems come about that we have, which is I keep dying. They keep attacking me. They get into my stuff. And then you're like, how do I solve this? And then you want to know, how does the game let me solve this problem? And if you can't figure it out, you get frustrated and you stop playing. And so the game also has to teach you, how can I take something and make something? Well, it pretty quickly teaches you how to make a pickaxe, and then maybe you also learn how to make a sword, or think, can I make a sword? And you make a sword. Like, oh, sweet sword. Then you see you have armor slots because you've learned how to equip, torches. You learn how to equip swords or pickaxes. You have to, right? You've learned how to equip all these things and use things. You're like, oh, I see an armor slot. How do I do that? Must be the same thing. And then you figure that out, and then solve these problems, and it's a fun sort of thing that the player does. And I think it's more fun too because if there weren't enemies at night, let's say there are enemies just in caves, the first time you go to a cave would be the first time you need iron, but also a new thing has been introduced. So not just navigating underground in caves and using torches, all that thing, but also and bringing food, but also now there's enemies for the first time. If they didn't spawn at night, in the dark, for the first time there's now enemies, and you're like, what is this? You're trying to get iron, and all of a sudden you have a hard gate. You have a hard stop because all of a sudden you're trying to get iron, and you can't because there's enemies everywhere. And you're like, okay, let me regroup, go to the surface, build wood. And I'm saying that's not fun because you weren't even aware they existed. They're all new to you. You're learning everything new about them, and so the surface I think allows you to get comfortable with enemies without really having a lot of risk because you just go back into your base or they get too tough. So it's sort of fun. You get to practice like a kid almost. Like you go out now, you punch some zombies, be like, what does it take to kill these things? Okay, I'm pretty tough now. As a trial run. And then you go in the caves and it's much more serious. Victor, I've been talking for a while. What do you think? I can just talk forever.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, how do we get back to Starmancer at this point?
We don't have to. But I think when talking about game design, I think it's good to talk about the process. And that's how I feel, though, Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to do yoga tonight. I don't know if I want to.
It's always yoga on Fridays.
Tuesdays and Fridays. It's at the Y. They have 2 classes. Tuesdays at 5:45 and Wednesdays at 5:30. And I kind of hate it because it's so late. Like I don't like getting home so late. Like I don't get home till like okay. If yoga starts at 5:30, it gets over with at like 6:35. 6:40 maybe, right? And then I change right quick. That takes like 5 minutes. And then I'm leaving maybe by 6:45 early. That's very generous. And then I'm getting home like 7:15 earliest, And then I'm home for like 1 hour, and it's time for Vought to go to bed, and also dinner, and all this stuff. And then I don't get to see the kids. I don't like it. Like when I was in Florida, man, it was so nice just spending so much time with my kids, Because like the way that like I get anxiety and so I don't like going in a social situation in which everyone's looking at me and talking to me. I don't like that very much, and Graham doesn't like it either. And it's easy to when you're looking at a kid. Because the kid's never going to tell you, what's up, Dad. But the kid never tells you that he's, stop looking at me. You know what I mean? He just gets sad and freaks out. And I don't know. So, and then you just realize, like, oh my God, like, children have, like, the same emotions we have. They just don't really they don't understand their feelings yet. You ever have, like, a girlfriend in high school, like when you're younger, maybe? The point is, when you have your first girlfriend, you genuinely believe that you love her. So much because it's your first, and so you have all these feelings and they're new to you. It's like if you've never eaten food before and you tasted ice cream for the first time, you'd be like, everyone, this is the most delicious food that's ever invented, and I love it. I'm gonna eat it every day, and I'm gonna be happy eating it. And then we all say, listen, if you eat ice cream every day, it's it's not good for you. Like you'll get bored of it, and also it's not good for you. And you say, don't worry about that. I know that you can't handle ice cream, but what I have with ice cream is special, and I'll take vitamins. It doesn't even matter. I can eat ice cream every day. I don't care. What we have is special. No, dude, you don't understand. We love each other, and then inevitably they break up because you change as a person. You realize that those feelings don't last forever. It's like in life, the excitement of the first time. When you do something for the first time, it's so exciting and so real, and the emotions are there, and you keep trying to recapture it, and you can't. Like, have you ever played like a video game co-op with your friends or anything, and then a year later you're like, hey, let's play Mario Kart again. It was so fun the one time we played. Let's play it again. And then you play it, and it's different. It's not the same that it was. And it kind of sucks, doesn't it? Because you genuinely had a good time playing Mario Kart a year ago with all your friends. Everyone's hooting and hollering. They were getting into it, And you try playing again, and it doesn't. Something's changed. People play. They've done it before. They know what they're doing. It's not novel. Whatever. What's the best programming language for beginners, in your opinion? I don't know what the best for beginners is. I think that programming, like anything else, is a skill, and you get better over time using it. And I also think that the most important thing is finding a language that allows you to actually, where you'll actually program and actually learn and do the things. So for example, if you're like if you want to make games, it would and I would almost like work backwards. Like, okay, I want to make games. What's a good way to make games? Unity. Okay, Unity uses C#. I'll use C# then, because you don't really have any other option. And I think most of programming is like the concepts, to be honest. And the syntax is less important, and the syntax is more about the languages. There's nuances in languages that matter, like in C# or .NET. Knowing that the garbage collector exists, that matters. Knowing that something that's passed by reference isn't going to use up more memory and is sometimes more efficient. And if you use a struct, it's going to be copied by value, and that's going to use up maybe more memory in the short term, but doesn't have to get reclaimed necessarily by the garbage collector. So there's like little nuances to languages that, but you'll learn those, I think that any language that you learn is fine. Again, as long as it's something useful. Again, I think the important thing is something usable with it. Because there's a lot of programming languages that are like basic programming languages, and they're really only used for learning. And then once you want to do like real stuff that's actually fun, you can't. Like you have to learn something new anyway. So I feel like it's better to learn something new, personally. And then to learn something where you actually have to apply it. And also have some sense for why you're programming too. Like if you're programming to make websites, that's different than if you're programming to make games, right? Oh, automation QA. Yeah. Oh, you said manual QA. I guess I didn't know what that meant. It said manual QA. I first thought like that was like where you live or something. I don't know why I thought that. To be honest with you, I thought manual QA. I thought like, okay, manual Quebec or something. Okay, maybe I just don't know where that is. I just didn't know what that was. I just ignored it. Yeah. Yeah, if it's automation, yeah, I don't know. Because programming is just a tool to express something. Like art is just a tool as well. Like if you're making a video game, what Victor does when he makes art is he's actually making a tool that best sort of, communicates the information we're trying to communicate to the user through a visual medium. But that's really what he's doing. And I think if he starts to think, which he might, but if you start to think of yourself as an artist or a programmer first, it's like, well, that's not what you are. What you actually are is you're a person who's you're a game creator who is good at art, who makes art, who knows how art works. But you're making a game, and that should be the primary focus. And it's easy to get lost in that, where you like, and also with games, you have such a deadline. Like in my case, my mentality is like, if I'm not programming, I'm wasting time. But I've been trying to shift away from that mentality because it's not a good mentality to have. Because I'm not a programmer, Or at least not primarily, right? Like the important thing is that the game is done well, and it's important that I think that we spend time on things like game design that have nothing to do with programming, and that's fine. It's hard because you get so stressed. Cause like, well, I want to do faster. Make the decision, go faster. And it's hard to get out of that when you have so much to do. It's hard to be like, oh, just take a breath, relax. It'll get there when it's done, but it has to be done the right way. Because I think when you rush, it comes off in the product. I think it feels rushed, it feels anxious. I think it feels anxious or something, if you don't take the time to really smooth it out. So what's the best language? I don't know. That was me talking about the fact that I don't know the best language to learn for your specific case. Now, in your case, you maybe literally could learn one of those basic languages just for because you're saying you're doing automation QA, which sounds like some sort of scripting, like, and then you have to look at the constraints you have, like what language will even work, like maybe Python maybe has some languages or some libraries or something that will automatically incorporate in that. And then also if you're making like mods versus making like a website versus making a video game versus making like a mobile app, whatever, there's different sort of constraints, or the language will kind of control that. So, what are your thoughts, Victor?
Yeah, I think the key is just something that you can do something with, because that gets you sort of going. You get excited and you're like, oh shit.
You mean early for learning?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah. Because like early, it's boring. There's so much you don't know, and there's so much you want to do, and there's so much frustration because you're like, I'm messing up, and it's really frustrating for learning anything. And I think it's important that I think the most important thing for anything, especially early, is that you do it in a way that works for you. Because you have to grind. You need to get those hours in. Think of it this way. You need to get a minimum amount of hours in. I'm not talking about them 10,000 hours from that one skinny man. What's that skinny man's name? He writes all the books. He wrote like Outliers, for example, Malcolm Gladwell. I'm not talking like 10,000 hours, but you do have to get reps in. You do have to get time in. You do have to get an amount of time before you can master something, no matter what it is. You just, and again, I'm not talking 10,000 hours. I'm talking like it just takes time. Like you just have to spend time on getting good at something, and it's going to be boring, and you're going to have to make yourself do it even when you don't want to, even when it feels pointless, even when you feel like, can I just do something else? Because your brain wants, the animal part of you wants to do something else that's a more efficient use of your resources and energy. Because early stage, you know, when you're learning a skill, it's not useful for anything. There's nothing good in your life that's going to come from spending one day learning programming. Nothing good will come of that because you haven't learned enough to be good, right? And your animal part of your brain knows that. Your brain knows that. It's like, dude, just eat the food in the fridge. You have a good situation. You're not dying. There aren't tigers killing you. You got it pretty good. You're in the top 99.99% of animals right now. Like, appreciate that, you idiot. Recognize that, dummy. That's what your body's saying. You're saying, fuck you, body. I don't give a shit. I'm not an animal anymore. I live in a house. Now I want to learn how to program because it looks cool. And so you have to, you know, find ways to motivate yourself. And that's why I think it's important to focus on, like, okay, Unity. I want to make games. I'm going to do it in Unity. You're going to use C#. I'm going to use C#. Great, right? Because I can just keep making games. Like, I remember when I was learning, I would like make like calculators and stuff. I was like like 13 or something. But like, you know, trying to like be like, okay, I'll make a calculator. How do I do that? I know how to do that. And it's kind of cool. You can show it off and you can use it. And it's fun because you can see like, oh, I made that. And there's a cool connection. Because another way you could program is you could like program like an algorithm that does something interesting. Like maybe like, oh, if I give it my salary, it'll tell me what my taxes are. Like, that's not very fun. Like, you're never going to do that. Be like, oh, look at, that's just a basic math. Like, you could do that on a piece of notebook paper, you know, like you could just, or an Excel spreadsheet, you could do that, right? So, I don't know. How long has this been going? 2 hours and 46 minutes of maybe not quality content, but content nonetheless. Let me minimize this. Let me go back here. This guy has just been doing something for hours. He's still alive. Is his skin a funny color? He did. He got sick from eating poop. It made his skin a new color, but mostly he's okay. So, you eat too much poopy. I do love that colonists are self-sufficient like that. The players never feel that they are, but they, in fact, are pretty self-sufficient where they actually won't starve to death. Until you start using the poopy for everything. Even the fact that colonists eat poop and make poop, part of it is an attempt. Not saying it's, but if you look at like why we did it, you know, it's sometimes easier to not get so mad at us, right? The intent is that at all levels of play, the colonists technically have something to eat. So that's part of it, you know, which is good. So they won't starve to death. You don't have to worry about that. So, and then eventually they will starve to death because you'll start to use the poop for something else, and then you'll be like, okay, now I have the source of food. Plus, it's gross, you know. I have that source of food. But the point is that a colonist actually won't starve until you've actually started playing a little bit longer and done something with the food they produce on their own. It'll never feel like that. No player ever thinks like, oh, I don't have to make food. No one ever, especially a new player, because it's not told anyway. Like, no one's ever going to think like, oh, they'll eat poop, that's okay. They all know that they shouldn't eat poop. But in terms of starving, you actually could kind of ignore the poop game a bit. It just mildly affects morale. I mean, see? It's only, like, he's still a +1. Oh, he's gross, that's why. That's funny. But like, if you give them like a bed and give them art or something, like, it's going to counteract, you know, all of the negativities. Plus, he's anxious, so he has double morale penalty. So he only gets like, you get a -1 morale penalty for eating poop. It's not that much. Again, the intention is you see -1. -1's not very bad, but you click, you're like, oh, that's not good. I guess I'm not supposed to eat poop. And the intention is that it guides you not to eat poop. But again, sometimes it doesn't work out that way, and it just is confusing instead, right? Free time? Does he like any jobs? He likes no jobs. But he'll see this art in a second. I wish you could context order. He just saw it, I think. Yeah. So this is literally just one poster is counteracting the negatives of eating poop. Like one poster. So mechanically, it's that easy to avoid it. And if you wanted to, you could just let them eat poop forever. And it would have no actual consequences on their behavior or your goals. Well, except that like if they see like a dead body, that'd be like a -10. Then you need food to actually give them a bigger boost. And that was sort of how we balance food, is that like food will counteract the bad memories. So it'll be like the way of like, okay, because you feed them once a day, so it'll be like a permanent, you know, you want to progress. Because always a problem you had is like, okay, what's the purpose of spaghetti? If you have poop, raw wheat, nutrition bricks, and then bread, and then pizza. Well, what does pizza do? What does bread do? Why is the user bothering with this? Is it just because they're bored and they think it's fun to feed pizza to their people? And maybe it is, and sometimes that's fine. But I personally don't think that's enough for pizza. In pizza's case, it's like it has to be something else. Where it's really worth all the effort, because there is a lot of effort in taking all the ingredients and feeding them. Why am I doing this? And so I think there has to be some purpose. So it was morale. The idea was, okay, let's have a morale boost. And then within the morale tiers, if you want to feed someone bread versus lasagna versus chicken noodle soup, that's all the same. That's your preference now. Same with a mesh bed versus a wood bed. Is we're like, well, it's just kind of the aesthetic preference for the player. That was our thought process, is that they don't necessarily it doesn't need to be better. It's just a different thing, and then they can choose the aesthetics that they like the best. Because we also want to avoid situations, we want the player as much freedom. We didn't want them to have to place a wooden bed. We wanted them to be able to place a mesh bed if they like the mesh beds, But also, we don't want the mesh beds to feel like they place them once and they don't have to place beds again either. It's a very tough thing to balance. And then, then as you're playing, is it fun? Like, do players find themselves wishing that they could place, I wish I could just do more of my beds and upgrade. And often the players will never think this directly. They'll just think, I'm bored, I want more to do. And then it's our job to be like, okay, let's take your feedback and see the truth that you're trying to get at and be like, okay, they're bored. How can we make them less bored? How can we give them more time? Find ways in which they spend more time doing things that are enjoyable for them or fun. Fun is like maybe the better way, right? So, okay, well, do we add bed upgrades? And then sometimes we'll do that. We'll take a gas, we'll add bed upgrades, and we play and we're like, this isn't really fun. We fucked up, right? And that's sort of what happens. And you're like, oh no. So anyway, that's what we're doing with the resources right now, is looking for ways to, make the game more fun. And to us, resource acquisition was always the biggest issue in this game because there simply is no good way right now to have rare resources. And then many other things that we're talking about are hard to do. So, for example, it's hard to make upgrade modules more interesting if there's not a better way to acquire resources in a rare way. Because right now, the only way to acquire resources is just sort of random. It's just like you go here, you mouse over. Is it here? No? Okay, let me go here. Let me warp somewhere else right quick. Is it there? No. If it is there, click it. It's yours in, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however long it takes, right? It's like, that's it. It's like, okay. Like, let's say you needed mysterious eggs or something, or even ore. It doesn't, whatever. Like, okay, let's click this. I'll click this. I'll click this. It's going to be mine. It's mine. It's mine. There's no discovery. There's no finding things. It's not rare. It's just luck. You either get it or you don't. And if it's there, you get it for free. Like, you click a button, it's there. It's yours. It's yours if you click the button. And that's not fun, right? So we're trying to find ways to improve that. And also the resource acquisition was always sort of stubbed. Because when you're making a game, it's like, do you make the resource acquisition fun? Well, if you do that, what's the base game? What do you do with the resources? Like, you have to, okay, and then vice versa. So, like, imagine if the resource acquisition was really fun. Like, you flew to bases, and there's really awesome. There are enemies you'd fight, and there were, like, bosses and epic music. I don't know, whatever, right? And you come back to the base, and there's really nothing to do with the resources. So, eventually, you're kind of like, well, what am I doing, But then again, if the resource acquisition is just fun on its own, like that could be just a fun part of the game. But anyway, that's the thought process. It's like, okay. And then now we're at the point where, like, okay, we feel like the base game is okay. It's pretty good. And we feel like most of the problems are really just from resources, to be honest, in the game right now. So, for example, it's too easy to acquire resources right now. You get so much ore. The player gets way more than they need. And then you just have a bunch of crap. And because you have so much junk, your colonists are so busy, nothing gets done. And you get frustrated because you're like, why has it literally been like 3 game days and this thing hasn't been moved? And it's like, well, it hasn't been moved because your guys are so busy. Because you have an endless stream of raw materials. And so, Yep. All right, Victor. Do you have any closing words of wisdom?
No.
Because it's getting late. And I need to eat. I haven't eaten yet today.
Yeah, me neither.
I think Sarah bought a frozen barbecue chicken pizza, but I don't really like barbecue chicken pizza. I'm a red sauce man all the way through.
What else is red sauce?
Marinade, like regular pizza sauce.
Oh.
What sauce is most popular in Sweden? Is it red? Is it marinara sauce?
We don't really call the pizza sauce anything. It's just always
What color is it?
red.
Is it made of tomatoes? Because it's the sauce I'm probably talking about. It's the marinara.
Yeah, but I didn't know that I like different sauces on pizza.
No, I see. There are, like, you put, well, it's America. You put barbecue sauce. You can have, like, a white sauce. No sauce. Some people do no sauce, yeah. But I love red sauce. I love pizza sauce. Because you guys put weird ingredients.
We have banana.
Right, exactly. You guys put, like, non-American ingredients on your pizza. And so I was like, well, maybe you have American sauces. I don't know. Right? I don't know. I'm just asking, right? I don't know. And they're okay. But I like just that red. I mean, here's the thing, man. I love chicken nuggets and french fries. I love pizza. Exactly. No sauce is just like breadsticks. It's like it's like a sandwich or something. It's a different thing. It's not pizza anymore. It's like a bread. It's like fried bread kind of. You can kind of see what it is, you know? It's like if you took like a crappy bread and put also pizzas, I'm pretty sure is a junk material anyway. You take all the junk resources, the junk food, you know, and like I was put it on top and eat it, I guess. Like stews. It's like a stew, but for Italians or something.
What pizza is a stew?
What's the most American? Yeah, I think pizza's like a stew, yeah. Because you make, traditionally, because when you make a stew, you're just throwing in a bunch of stuff into a pot and boiling it, you know, and eating it, you know?
I mean, yeah.
And so I think pizza traditionally was that as well, which is like you take all the junk things, like cheese and tomatoes and meats and whatever, and you just put it on and bread. And you can eat leftovers that way, and it's more, you know, fun to eat the leftovers that way than like as a hunk of cheese or something, you know? I think that was, again, I don't even know if traditional pizza had cheese. I don't know any of this. But I'm just saying, I think that was traditionally what it was something like that, you know. Because it's so basic. But the basic stuff, man, I love it. Like, I love chicken tenders. I love french fries, you know. And then and I have to try to convince my son, Graham, he's 3.5, to be like, listen, you can't eat chicken tenders all the time. I know they're delicious, and I want to eat them too. Because I would eat chicken nuggets every day. I don't care. I would. I love them. I don't love complex flavors. I love simple stuff. I don't know what the point is, but I guess we're out of here. So if you're watching this, we're out of here. There was no patch this week because I was in Florida last week on vacation, so there's no patch. But yep, I have to pee so bad. That's why I'm kind of rushing this right now. Like it's coming out right now. Like I'm putting my hands like on my like my boys a little bit to like put pressure to try to not pee right now because I have to pee so bad. So I drink a whole water bottle and coffee before this. All right, people. We're out of here. Thank you for watching.
Yeah.
Goodbye. It's Starmancer. Tell your friends.